I came back to life mid-scream. No soft light, no wise voice, no tunnel. One second I was a god getting hunted across the heavens by the desolate god race, reaching for my supreme divine sword. The next I was sitting bolt upright in a bed that reeked of incense and bad decisions. No divine energy, no divine body, and a naked girl's leg thrown across my lap. Have the wild thunder god race arrived? I heard myself gasp, before my brain caught up with my mouth. Panic that wasn't mine, from a life that was already over. I reached for divine power on reflex and found nothing, not a drop. My flesh had gone from a god's body back to a mortal one. Soft, useless, 16 years old. Cool, very cool. Love that for me. I slapped myself. It hurt. I slapped myself again, harder, the way you do when you really need the universe to be joking. It kept hurting. So this was real. I was in the abandoned villa in the east of Lingjian City, wearing the body of a soft-handed young lord who couldn't cultivate to save his life, and the memories were pouring back in like a burst dam. The girl breathing against my shoulder, skin like white jade, a figure that had no business belonging to a 15-year-old. That was Wen Yue, granddaughter of Grand Tutor Wen, a heaven-ranked Grand Master, one of the 4 great families of the Great Chen dynasty. And this was the day I'd spent my whole first life regretting. The short version, because the long one still makes me want to burn a palace down. The emperor, my father's own sworn brother, decided my father had gotten too impressive. My father, Marquis Wang Jian, was the strongest man in the kingdom, the first real genius in 300 years, the grand marshal who conquered half the map with 300,000 Azure Dragon Cavalry that answered to him and not the throne. Small men do not forgive that. So the emperor drugged me and this Wen girl with lust poison, staged us naked in a bed, and sent people to kick the door down and catch us mid-crime. Last time, it worked perfectly. Wen Yue killed herself from the shame. I got dragged to the capital and thrown in the imperial prison. My father abandoned the northern war to save me, and 9 Yuandan grandmasters swarmed him at the execution ground. Cultivation shattered, title stripped, marched into a cell to rot forever. Long died there, broken, because of me. I watched every second of it, powerless. Then I lived another 30 years in a fog. And now the universe had said, lol, no second chances, buddy, except apparently there was one, and I was sitting in the middle of it. Wen Yue stirred against me, and the lust poison flared. Her voice went low and molten. Her arm coiled around me like a water snake. My reborn soul was a few thousand years old. My body did not care. The poison in me was rising too, and for one dangerous heartbeat, the soft heat of her nearly ate my mind whole. No, give in, and the tragedy replays word for word. So I did the least romantic thing a naked man has ever done beside a beautiful woman. I started pressing acupoints. My body was a body-tempering 3 weakling with no true chi. But a god remembers things. The yin and yang of the flesh, the 5-element origin points, the trick of flushing poison through the meridians with nothing but pressure. I worked her lower abdomen until a cold flow chased the fire out. Then I did the same to my own dantian. Her, me, buying us both a sliver of sanity at a time. She woke up in the middle of it, and, fair enough, assumed I was the villain. Invited to tea, blacked out, woke up naked in bed with a known scholar. She yanked a sword from her storage ring, aimed it very politely at my groin, and lunged. I rolled off the bed and drew my own blade. Then I outfenced her. Her swordsmanship was exquisite among her peers. Mine had broken the void realm and killed things that ate stars. She threw a dozen strikes with everything she had and couldn't touch me. Wen Yue, listen to me, I said, ducking a slash. We were both poisoned. Someone wants to ruin us. Shameless lecher, I thought you were a scholar and you put poison in my tea? I only had one shot at the argument, so I made it count. If I wanted to defile you, why would I poison myself? If I wanted a woman, I'd give an order, and half the beauties in this city would climb into my bed. Touching a daughter of the Wen clan gets me torn to pieces and starts a war between your grandfather and my father. I'm not stupid enough to burn down a dynasty for one night. Someone drugged us both to set our families at each other's throats. And whoever burst through that door first, screaming rescue, that's the one who did it. She wasn't dumb. I watched her hear it. She checked, quietly, that her virtue was technically intact, decided a real defiler wouldn't have been so careful about that, and lowered the blade. Fine, I'll believe you once. But if this is smooth talk, even if your father is the Grand Marshal, I'll take your head. Cheerful girl. I liked her already. We got dressed. She wanted to open a window for air. I stopped her. Why not? Because we're waiting for them to catch us in the act. Except now, the act is 2 fully clothed people standing in a hall, extremely bored, watching the guilty parties break down their own door. Right on cue, the door came down. Guards flooded in. My Azure Dragon guards, her people, and 2 young masters who'd conveniently shown up to rescue the endangered beauty Heir Fangzi of the Duke Jingquan family and Gao Shun of the Gao clan, all of them clutching anonymous notes that had pointed them here at exactly the right moment. Same handwriting on every note, different wording. Pawns. Then I looked at a note and my skin crawled. There was a scent in the ink under the words. Demonic Qi. In my last life, I'd fought the Yao race across 10,000 realms, and I'd know that stank anywhere. The Azure Fox clan. Demons. Which meant the imperial family wasn't only scheming behind closed doors, it was in bed with monsters. And if the throne was dealing with the Yao race, the throne was a lot closer to extermination than it thought. I had Wen Yue sprinkle demon-catching powder on the notes. Blue smoke, confirmation. Then I told her to dump the rest over the whole room. The powder doesn't just expose demonic contact, it cracks disguises. And one of Heir Fangzi's own bodyguards started sprouting blue fox fur. Fangzi's face went the color of a corpse. Long walked in a pawn, and now a Yao race assassin was standing at his back, and the whole room was staring at him like he was the traitor. Long wasn't lying when he screamed that he didn't know the thing. Long genuinely didn't. Long was just the scapegoat with the worst luck in the province, framed by his own planted demon so cleanly he couldn't have proven his innocence with a year to try. The fox finished shedding its human skin. 2.5 meters of green fox demon clan muscle. Xiantian, 9th layer peak. The kind of monster that takes 4 or 5 human champions single-handed. It looked around and said the quiet part loud. Your Highness, since we're already exposed, why waste time talking? Let's kill them all. Which technically was a confession. A very useful one. My guard captain stepped in front of me before I even ordered it. Shen Yi. Rough, honest, Xiantian 9th layer himself. A top fighter in a small kingdom. Against this fox, he was a candle against a bonfire, and he charged anyway. That's the thing about the men my father raised. Being outmatched wasn't a reason to run. It was just the weather. Long drew his Azure Dragon blade and unleashed the 9 blades, the suicide art my father made for the cavalry, where you accept your head is coming off and only care that the other man bleeds too. Saber Chi met Sword Chi. Shen Yi got thrown back 7 or 8 steps. Second exchange, his armor tore and blood ran. The fox called him an ant and started measuring his throat. Escort the young lord away, Shen Yi roared, planting his feet to die for me. There it was again. A loyal man, deciding to bleed out for a useless boy. Exactly like last time, except last time I was a helpless child who could only watch the people around me die. Not tonight. So I opened my mouth, gathered a thread of intent the way a god does without trying, and dropped my voice straight into Shen Yi's sea of consciousness. Step back to the left, thrust your blade across the center. Qing have never seen a man more confused. Long was mid-death, waiting for the sword through his neck, and suddenly his own young lord, the useless scholar who couldn't lift a cultivation manual, was calling moves inside his skull. His body obeyed before his brain could argue. Long stepped, crossed his blade in the middle of the road, and the fox's sure kill thrust slid off the flat of it. The fox blinked. Not dead yet? Half step left, stab his lower right leg. Here's the thing nobody in that courtyard understood. To a god who fought his way to the divine realm, mortal martial arts aren't fighting. They're a coloring book with the lines already printed. Every move that fox made had a flaw stapled to it. I couldn't swing at the thing myself. This body would have shattered like a soda can, but I could read it. And I could feed a Xiantian captain the answer to a fight that was, for the fox, unwinnable the moment I started talking. I walked Shen Yi through it like a dance. Horizontal slash, upward sweep, half step right, take his left arm. The fox went from 3 moves to a kill to helpless in under a minute, flinching at attacks that landed before he finished thinking of them. And Shen Yi, bless the man, started laughing mid-duel. Actually laughing, cheerfully asking whether he should know where the acupoints were, apologizing that he was just a rough soldier who never read the books. The whole courtyard stood there watching a body-tempering 3 boy conduct a symphony he had no business conducting. Wen Yue, the guards, every eye in the place, on me. Then Heir Fangzi and every one of his men bled from the eyes and dropped dead where they stood, just like that. No warning, no sound, silenced. Somebody with a very long reach had decided the scapegoat had served his purpose and cleaned him up before he could say a useful word. I forgot to feed Shen Yi his next move. The fox seized the gap, forced my captain back, and vaulted the rooftops on a pair of low-grade flying wings. Long shouted a parting gift over his shoulder that killing the Duke Jingqian heir would bring a whole ducal house down on my head. Then the corpses started to melt. I mean melt. Skin going to black smoke, then to a thick, corroding sludge that ate the grass it touched, and would have eaten Shen Yi's hands if I hadn't barked at him not to reach for the bodies. The notes in Wen Yue's grip burst into flame on their own. Every thread of evidence, gone in the time it takes to blink. This wasn't a scheme, it was a machine, and it cleaned up after itself. So I did the only thing a boy with no army and no proof could do. I stood in front of everyone and blamed the dead man. Heir Fangzi colluded with the Yao race to sow discord between the great families. Tragic, case closed. I sent the fox's portrait to the Demon Hunting Alliance for a bounty, sent a careful, respectful memorial to the capital about the whole unfortunate incident, and swallowed the truth whole, because the truth was the emperor, and I couldn't fight the emperor yet. What I could do was start. That evening, I invited Wen Yue to dinner. She'd changed into a blue and white dress that made the whole courtyard look underdressed. Over tea, she quietly decided the boy across from her was not, in fact, a decorative idiot. She'd watched me cure poison, sniff out demons, and puppet a captain into beating a monster 4 ranks up. She was too sharp to believe it came from a poetry hobby. I'm very curious, she said, how you learned to detoxify like that, and where a scholar picked up the martial knowledge you fed Shen Yi. I poured her tea. Everyone has their secrets. Why pry at mine? She let it go. But she'd already done the math out loud. Careful. A plot that wins by turning Marquis Wang Jian, Grand Tutor Wen, and Duke Jingchen against each other. 3 of the 4 great powers, set on fire by one bed. She even reminded me the Duke Jingchen family had backed the dead Prince Jilin, the man the current emperor beat to the throne. Whoever wins or loses, she murmured. Who reaps the benefit? She'd seen everything I'd seen. I could only warn her to guard her mouth. And then she pushed a little further, brought up Princess Chen Shi, the emperor's most beloved daughter, and, as it happened, the girl I'd been betrothed to since we were both in diapers, back before the emperor started dreaming of my family's funeral. They say Princess Chen Shi is an unmatched beauty and a genius nearly the equal of your father, she said, feigning idleness. Aren't you tempted? Who can say what the future holds? I said, which, from a man who knows the emperor wants his whole family dead, says quite a lot. And Wen Yue, being Wen Yue, heard every word I didn't say. If the throne meant to erase my father, a childhood betrothal to his daughter was worth exactly nothing. For some reason, that seemed to please her. She left the next morning, and the emperor's careful little plot to end me died in a ditch behind her. That night, alone, I finally got to be a god again. Here's the secret I couldn't tell the girl, or my guards, or my father. My mother is God race, a daughter of the Sha Lei god clan. She faked her death to fool my father and got taken home to her clan, and my whole life I'd been trashed for one simple reason. Half my blood was divine, and my hidden divine veins had been silently eating every pill and every scrap of spiritual energy I ever swallowed. My body starved so my bloodline could feast. 16 years of why can't this boy cultivate? And the answer was that a god had been hibernating inside a beggar the whole time. Last life, I didn't learn any of it until I was nearly 50, after my father was long dead. This time, I knew the door, and I had the key. I stripped, and I planted 360 gold needles into my body, one for every degree of the celestial sphere, each in a key acupoint. Then I ran the Taishu Thunder Sutra, the sacred art of my mother's clan, the one it took me until godhood to earn the first time. Storm clouds boiled up over Lingjian city, thunder with no rain. Purple lightning poured down into the courtyard and into me, and my hidden divine veins woke, one by one, all night long. By dawn, I'd activated my divine body and stepped into the divine meridian realm. First level. It doesn't sound like much. What it meant was that a boy who yesterday couldn't beat a house cat could now kill Shantian experts, human or demon, without breaking a sweat. It also meant I was, to every powerful being in this world, a walking feast. God race blood is a treasure of heaven and earth. There are techniques to refine it straight into your body. If word ever got out that the trash young lord was a live God race cub, every human and every demon within 1,000 miles would come to eat me like a piece of Tang monk flesh. So I sealed the aura with the concealing divine technique, and I made myself a rule I'd keep for a long, ugly time. My divine power stays hidden, or it comes out to kill and leaves no witnesses. There is no in-between. When I opened the door in the morning, Shen Yi looked at me like a stranger. Young master, you seem different today, more handsome. Qinger saying I wasn't handsome before? Qingwer. It's just, now it's worse, better, more. Wen Yue said the same thing when I saw her off at the city gate, except she wrapped it in poetry. Yesterday, a stubborn rock. Today, a rough gem. Glad I finally didn't have to hide anymore. I let her keep her beautiful theory. The true version, that the trash had become a god overnight, was the one thing that could get me killed. She mounted up, cracked her whip, and rode off into the dust. Just like that, the Emperor's whole scheme to end me was a corpse cooling in a field. I watched her go. Then I got to work. Because a divine body is very hungry, this whole region's spiritual energy is very thin, and I had exactly one problem to solve before I could do anything to anyone. I needed money. Making money as a former god is embarrassingly easy. In a world where nobody can brew a decent pill, I used to do alchemy that would make these people weep into their teacups. The plan was simple. Buy cheap herbs, cook miracle pills, sell them for the price of a small castle. The only thing I was missing was a furnace. I found mine in the second-hand market, which is the polite name for a street full of tomb robbers and fences. A bearded man dumped a rusty, dead-looking pill furnace on a cloth beside a pile of grave goods, and my divine sense lit up like a temple lantern. That crust on it wasn't rust. It was leaked cauldron fire, solidified over 1,000 years of neglect. Under it was a Xuan tier grade 3 cauldron artifact, a treasure that once belonged to an alchemist stronger than anything this whole kingdom could field, buried with a corpse because the corpse thought it was scrap. Naturally, before I could buy it, a punchable teenager showed up to ruin the moment. Wang Lei, heir of the Wang family, local nobodies who'd been eyeing my father's city for years and belonged to the emperor's faction. Long mocked me loudly for lowballing a poor merchant, purely to enjoy the sound of his own voice. I could have bought the furnace anyway. What stopped me was one of his bodyguards, because standing at Wang Lei's shoulder, wearing a human face, was the exact green fox demon that had escaped my courtyard the night before. My divine sense doesn't miss disguises anymore, so the Wang family was in bed with the foxes too. The emperor's local pawn, sharing a leash with the emperor's local monsters. Good to know. I filed away that the Wang clan had 3 Yuan Dan. The clan head, Wang Xuan, and 2 grand elders swallowed the insult and walked away. Then I quietly sent Shen Yi back with 100 taels to buy the worthless furnace once Wang Lei left. Some fights you win by not having them yet. Behind a closed door, I fed the furnace a thread of divine power and watched 1,000 years of crust melt back into living flame. A profound rank cauldron artifact. The sort of thing that marks its old owner as a monster who stood above the Yuan Dan realm. I bit my thumb, dripped blood, and it knew me for its master. When I called the cauldron fire out, it drained me dry in seconds. My realm was too low to feed a thing that grand. But 3 seconds of that fire could cook a Yuan Dan into charcoal. My first trump card in this life was a rusty soup pot, and I loved it. While I was falling in love with my furnace, the people trying to kill me were having a family chat. In the capital, on a pavilion in the middle of a lake, a 16-year-old girl finished breaking into the Xiantian realm 3 months faster than my father ever had. A middle-aged man in dragon robes nearly wept with pride. That was Emperor Chen Guang. The girl was his daughter, Chen Shi, the princess I was supposedly betrothed to. "Xier, 3 months faster than Marquis Wang Jian himself," the emperor breathed. "The title of first genius of our dynasty is yours." Chen Shi didn't even blink. The southern region alone has hundreds of nations, and our great Chen is a middling one among them. If a whole nation is that small, what is one marquis? Marquis Wang Jian is the best our little kingdom has produced in 300 years. Long is not a man worth taking as a goal to surpass. She wasn't being arrogant. To her, the strongest man in the kingdom simply wasn't a target worth aiming at. Her father laughed like it was the finest joke in the world. Then they read the report from my city, and it rattled them. The trash young lord had beaten the lust poison, sniffed out the foxes, coached a captain into killing a demon 4 ranks up. Chen Shi didn't panic. She improved the plan. "Don't kill him yet," she said. "Long's Marquis Wang Jian's weakness. As long as he lives, the weakness lives." Instead, she'd weaponize the Duke Jingqian family, order them to come investigate their dead heir in my city, bait them into attacking me, capture me as a hostage, use me to lure my father home from the front, and let a dozen grandmasters ambush him on the road. Every arrow of it aimed at getting my father to leave 300,000 cavalry behind and walk into a knife. The father and daughter agreed the only real danger was that dealing with the Yao race is always thin ice. The emperor waved it off. Where there is sunlight, there is shadow. Which nation, which clan in the whole eastern wilderness hasn't traded with the Yao race in secret? Everyone gets what they need. It's just an exchange of benefits. Remember that line, it's going to cost them the whole sky. I didn't know any of it yet. I was too busy printing money. In a couple of quiet days, I refined 108 bow-gathering pills that made the market's best look like candy. The store version raised your breakthrough odds by 10%, mine by 50%, and it protected your dantian if you failed. Then I picked a cover. I couldn't cultivate the human race way openly without exposing my divine thunder, so I dug an art out of my god-life memories, the Sword Dao Thunder method, looted from the ruins of a sect that got itself wiped out. Thunder attribute, which perfectly masked my divine thunder. And the fun part? I could run my mother's Taishu Thunder Sutra to summon thunder energy, then let the Sword Dao Thunder method devour it, cultivating more than 10 times faster than any human alive. I hit the Hotian realm in under a day. In front of everyone, I was a boy who couldn't cultivate. Behind the door, I was leveling like the world owed me back interest. Then the Imperial Edict arrived, right on schedule, exactly as Chen Shi drew it up. Duke Jingqian was permitted to come investigate their heir's death in my city. My steward, a good, gray, terrified man named Steward Gu Qing, begged me to run north to my father. 100,000 ducal troops against 10,000 city guards is not a fight. It's a funeral. Long offered to smuggle me out that very night. A clear conscience fears no accusation, I told him. Let them investigate. I have my own plans. I could not tell him the plans involved a rusty pot and a hidden god. So I let him think I was a fool with faith, and I went to sell my pills. I put on a middle-aged face, wrinkles and a mustache, and walked into the Juding Chamber of Commerce as a mysterious alchemist named Wei Yue, a homophone of my own name reversed, because I am, at heart, a smug person. Their whole appraisal hall couldn't identify my pills. Their elder gaped, called it impossible, and went to fetch someone who could. That someone was a woman in her early 20s named Hao Wang, second-tier alchemist, Jiantian 9th layer great perfection, a core daughter of the 9 Cauldrons imperial clan who'd been shipped to this backwater by a family that wanted her gone. She pricked a pill with a jade needle, smelled it, tasted it, and nearly dropped it. This is a bow-gathering pill, but 10 times more potent than ours. The ingredients are different. Then, cautious, how can you be sure it grants a 50% breakthrough? Test it, I said. Have a great perfection cultivator swallow one and deliberately fail. That proves it protects the dantian. Swallow the second yourself. If you don't break through, I won't charge you. I told her the pills came from my reclusive master, named my price at a cool $1,000,000, and said I'd be back in 3 days. She wanted to have me followed. Aunt Lan, her old bodyguard, suggested it. Hao Wang shut it down. If his master can refine this, he's a peerless figure. We cannot offend such a person. Then she made a decision that would drag her all the way into my war. She swallowed one of the test pills herself. It carried her clean into the Yuandan realm. First try, at 21, family prodigy territory. The kind of speed that would leave the 9 cauldrons best in the dust. And the moment she felt it, she stopped seeing a supplier and started seeing a lifeline. I must bind that man named Wei Yue, she told Aunt Lan, trembling. This is the chance to change my fate. While she was busy changing her destiny, I went hunting. I'd been tracking the foxes through my city. A shop that was a nest, a tunnel to a mansion. 6 of them holed up. One, a Yuandan elder named Qinghu Wang, plus the assassin who'd killed Fang Ze in my courtyard. Hidden in a well, I channeled divine power into my ears and caught their plan. Wipe out the local demon hunting group tonight, then help Duke Jingqian frame my city. So I climbed the wall after them and followed them out beyond the walls, and found their target. The Yindao Demon Hunting Group. 20-odd hunters with 2 Yuandan getting slaughtered by 10 foxes in a village clearing. A Yuandan fox against a Yuandan human is a 5-to-1 fight, and it showed. The hunters were dying like ants. Their leader, a Yuandan named Tong Hua, was 1 blade from a corpse. The enemy of my enemy makes a very useful friend. So I stepped in. I hurled my furnace at the fox elder like a scalding meteor and followed it in with my sword, running the Sword Dao Thunder method to hide my divine aura. Long cleaved the pot aside. 1 force overcomes 10 techniques, and his demonic energy was thick. But when I let the cauldron fire loose across his body, his defensive treasure, a yellow rank 4 shield, barely held. I couldn't finish him. My reserves ran dry too fast. Long read that in a heartbeat, sneered that I'd only gotten lucky with a profound rank toy, and then thought better of gambling his life on a mystery and pulled his foxes back into the dark. Half of that fight was luck, but the hunters lived, and now they owed me. So I sold them a story. I was Wei Yue, disciple of a hidden sect, and my junior brother was the young lord of this very city, kidnapped by these same foxes. It gave me a mysterious backer and a reason to be everywhere. Then I healed Tong Hua. Long had demonic energy rotting his organs, days from dead. A real alchemist would have needed 3 to 5 months. I closed it with gold needles in the time it takes half a stick of incense to burn. Long gaped and called me a little divine doctor. Then I healed the next man, and the next. One by one, all 20-odd of them, internal injuries knitting shut under my needles, while a group of hardened demon hunters who'd taken one look at my young face and dismissed me stood there getting quietly religious about it. By sunrise, they'd have followed me into a volcano. Then Hua pledged his group to my cause. They'd stay in the city, hunt the foxes, call in stronger reinforcements, and I banked the favor. A neutral demon hunting group vouching that Marquis Mansion never colluded with demons was worth more than an army when the frame came. I banked another favor 3 days later. When I collected my million, Hao Wang bowed to a middle-aged stranger and called him senior. She wanted to auction the rest of my pills. I told her my master went where the prophet was, and if her chamber couldn't meet him, someone else would, and watched her scramble to please me. Then I did the thing that mattered more than the money. I routed all future contact through my junior brother, the young lord of Lingjian City, because a boy with a mysterious, terrifying alchemist master and a 9 cauldrons princess at his back is a much harder boy to murder than a trash young lord alone in a doomed city. I was building momentum, brick by brick. The emperor thought he was hunting a lamb. I was quietly turning the lamb into a problem that could bankrupt kings. The Duke Jinqian delegation arrived to investigate, which is a word rich people use for committing crimes with paperwork. Their lead elder, Fong Long, a 3rd-level Yuandan and uncle to the heir I'd supposedly murdered, had a secret deal with the emperor. Come here, manufacture evidence, prove Jingqian innocent, pin the demon collusion on my house instead. Then send troops, capture me, hand my father a hostage. I rode out to the south gate to greet them like a proper host. Their young masters rode toward me loudly, discussing which of them would get to stomp my head into the dirt and spit in my face, close enough that everyone with ears could hear it. Then the Wang family walked out of my own city gate to meet them, and the whole delegation turned and greeted the Wang family like they were the true lords of this place, sweeping past me, past Steward Gu Qing, past Shen Yi, as if we were furniture. Clan head Wang Xuan and elder Fang Long clasped hands and laughed and strolled off to a feast together, and never once glanced at the Marquis's household waiting at the gate. Shen Yi drew his sword. Even mild old Steward Gu Qing went red to the ears. Getting snubbed at your own gate, by guests you came to welcome, in front of your own people. It's the kind of thing that makes soldiers do something fatal. Let's go, I told them. They won't be able to keep this up for long. I meant it more literally than they knew. Back home, Hao Wang came to visit. The newly minted Yuandan princess of the 9 Cauldrons clan, in person, to a trash young lord. Because kicking a man when he's down means nothing, but lifting him when he's down means everything. And she was investing. Steward Gu Qing nearly fainted announcing her. We were mid-tea when Shen Yi ran in. Wang Lei and the Jingxian young masters were storming the mansion with 300 soldiers, claiming they'd come to arrest Shen Yi for demon collusion. Their actual plan, which they announced at the top of their lungs, was to wreck my home, tie me up, and defile my woman in front of me. They picked the wrong woman. Wang Lei swaggered in, saw the gorgeous stranger beside me, assumed she was a maid, and reached out to grab a handful of the future princess of the most powerful clan in the region. Beauty, what future do you have with this trash? Come here and let me pamper you. Hao Wang caught his wrist, twisted it like wringing out a wet rag. His whole arm came apart with a wet crack. Long was still screaming when Aunt Lan stepped forward and told the room, in the flat voice you use on a dead man, that the maid they'd been drooling over was the incoming princess of the Nine Cauldrons imperial clan, before whom the entire Great Chen dynasty was a single ant. 209 Cauldrons guards flooded in behind her, 3 of them Yuandan. Wang Lei pointed at me anyway, white-faced, and started to say the word trash. So Hao Wang appeared in front of him and broke his other arm too. Then she looked at me, sword already in hand. Little brother, what should we do with all this garbage? There it was, the thing that broke the delegation's minds. This princess, this untouchable force, asking a nobody's opinion on whether they got to live. I told her the truth. They came to smash and loot and burn my home. Of course I'd love to send their heads back to the Wang family in a basket. But now they've offended you. So, Joy, how should we handle this? She didn't hesitate. She beheaded one Jingqian young master on the spot to prove it wasn't a joke, and the courtyard went silent as a tomb. Then she gave the order, kill them all. I could have. Instead, I chose something crueler than killing. Qing want to live? Then take off your armor, your weapons, your storage rings, everything. Strip to your shorts and crawl back to the Wang family from here. And as you crawl, you'll say it, loud enough for the whole street. I deserve to die. I'm a dog. I shouldn't have come to Marquis Mansion to smash and loot and burn. They didn't want to. Strip a young master naked and crawl him through his own city, and his reputation dies and never comes back. Worse than a clean grave. It makes his whole clan a joke. Wang Lei hesitated, so Hao Wang's blade dropped another Jingqian head to remind everyone that time was expensive. Then they crawled. I made them surrender their rings so they couldn't pull clothes back out. 9 Cauldrons guards walked behind them, beheading anyone who slowed down or mumbled, and the crawl ran 4 packed streets, past every tea house and market stall in the district. I deserve to die. I'm a dog. I shouldn't have come to Marquis Mansion to smash and loot and burn. The whole city came out to watch the Wang family heir drag himself bleeding through the mud, howling that he was a dog, and the crowd loved it. Isn't that Wang Lei, the crown heir of the Wang family? Serves them right. The Marquis treats us well, and these dogs come to make trouble at his gate. That's the thing about mercy that's crueler than murder. It doesn't just end a man, it turns his whole clan into a punchline that outlives them. Over at the Wang estate, clan head Wang Xuan was enjoying tea with Elder Fang Long and gloating that the Marquis mansion had become a latrine anyone could use, when a servant sprinted in with a face like a struck bell. Wang Lei and the Jingqian heirs, he stammered, were crawling naked and screaming through the whole city, herded by 9 Cauldrons guards. The teacup did not survive, and the instant Wang Xuan heard 9 Cauldrons guards, he understood the game had changed, and he had no idea by how much. Long paced his pavilion, sent a hawk to the emperor, and waited. Long couldn't afford to guess wrong. At home, my own people were dizzy. Steward Gu Qing finally worked up the nerve to ask why a princess of the 9 Cauldrons clan was fawning over me. So I gave them the cover story I'd built weeks ahead. I had a master, a reclusive alchemist of unfathomable strength, who'd taken me as a secret disciple in childhood and sworn me to silence. Even my father never knew. That was why the chamber fawned. Not over me, over my master's pills. Then I put a bow-gathering pill in Steward Gu Qing's hand. The old man tried to refuse it, tried to pass it to Shen Yi, tried to leave it for someone who needs it more. A gray steward at Xiantian 9th layer, still carrying hidden injuries from 3 failed breakthroughs, giving away the one thing that could fix him. So I told him I had one saved for Shen Yi too, that this pill repaired the Dantian, and that in these dangerous days the mansion badly needed a Yuandan of its own to hold the walls. Young master, he whispered, holding it like a live coal. I won't waste it. Shen Yi's eyes went red when he heard there was one waiting for him too. These were men who'd die for my father without a second thought, and I'd spent my last life watching every one of them die badly. Not again. That night, I slipped back out and found the bearded tomb robber at the market again, because the universe apparently keeps all its treasures in one guy's junk pile. And this time, my divine sense caught a pure vein of thunder in a rockery bonsai. A 10,000-year thunder soul jade, big as a watermelon, carved up and potted as a decoration by someone who'd mistaken a god-race treasure for cheap green stone. The kind of thing that shoves a divine body up a whole realm. I bought it for 300 taels, and the merchant congratulated me on my new money tree. Except a Wang family grand elder named Wang Yuan Hui, first-level Yuandan, a lightning cultivator, sensed the thunder in it and decided he wanted my rockery. Long demanded it, threatened me, offered me wealth and honor if I'd please him. I only enjoy collecting, I told him. Sorry, it's not for sale. Very good, he said, and left. Everyone in the crowd looked at me with pity, the way you look at a corpse that doesn't know it's dead yet. I let him follow me out of the city, because he thought he was luring a lamb to slaughter, and I was walking a tiger to a picnic. Out on the empty road, he stopped pretending. Qing lured me out here on purpose. What are you planning? Qing wanted to kill me and take my treasure, I said, so I left the city to give you the chance. Long couldn't sense an ambush, and he was right, there wasn't one. So he came. A lightning claw for my throat, ghost fast, certain a Hotian nobody couldn't scratch him. His only weapon was speed. My only weakness was speed. So I did the thing I'd become famous for, without anyone knowing my name. I stood still. I let the claw come, turned just enough that it missed my neck by a hair, and drove my divine body fist up under his ribs. Long sneered and let it land, sure his true essence shield would hold. It didn't. My fist went through the shield like paper and caved his dantian. A palm strike shattered his ribs. 3 punches and 3 palms later, the Wang family's grand elder was on the ground, his whole upper body broken, staring up at me while I peeled off my disguise so he could see exactly who'd killed him. Qingre? The young Marquis? Wang Xuan? The trash young lord. 16, a Yuandan killer. Long begged. Long blamed the emperor. It was all his majesty's idea. Spare the Wang family, we were only pawns. And I gave him the truth of this world, the same one he'd been happy to live by an hour ago. It was your Wang family that came to my door. When Marquis Mansion looked weak, you thought about trampling it. Now that it's strong, you wag your tail and beg to submit. Where do you find such a good deal? I burned him to ash with cauldron fire. Off his ring, I looted 6 million taels of silver notes, the emperor's payment meant for the foxes. So on top of everything, I just severed the money line between the Wang family and their demons by accident on a treasure run. I went home and fed the jade to my divine body for 3 days. Storm clouds sat over the city, thunder without rain, while I climbed to the 2nd level of the divine meridian realm, and my furnace fire reserves stretched from 3 breaths to 10. Steward Gu Qing broke through to Yuandan and couldn't stop grinning. Hao Wang openly threw the Juding chamber's weight behind my house, and the whole kingdom reappraised the doomed city overnight, which is exactly when the emperor's daughter reminded me that clever plans always have a second draft. A 9 cauldrons prince named Hao Kai, 25, Yuandan, whose father ran all 36 of the kingdom's chambers and who happened to be chasing Princess Chen Shi himself, took one order from the throne and stripped Hao Wang of her post. She came to warn me, dismissed and defanged, and handed my 4 unsold pills back rather than let his faction claim the credit for them. I'd made an ally. And by making her mine, I'd painted a target on her back. She wanted to stay and fight for me. I sent her away instead. And before she left, I put a jade bottle in her hands. 36 vitality pills my master had made, 1 a month. Enough to carry her to the 9th layer of Yuandan in 3 or 4 years. Take these to Hao Kai, she said, even as her hands shook, wanting them. His family could crush the whole imperial clan for you. I consider you a friend, I said. She trembled at the word. She swore that the greatest honor of her life was that friendship, that she'd go through fire and water for me. And then, because she was smart, she took the pills and left the kingdom to go get strong, which was the one thing that actually helped. I gave Steward Gu Qing a small bottle too, 9 pills, 1 every 6 months. My master, I told him, was very generous. My master did not exist, but that's a detail. Then the sky over my city started giving me away. Every time I ran the Taishu Thunder Sutra, thunderheads gathered over Lingjian City, and thunder with no rain does not go unnoticed. Rumors bred in the streets. I needed a formation flag to hide my cultivation, and didn't have one. Which meant, for now, I'd have to cook myself in secret and pray no true expert looked up and wondered why one boy's house kept its own weather. Down in the streets, Tanghua told me the demon hunting group's reinforcements had come. Over 100 hunters, 10 of them Yuandan, riding out to exterminate the foxes for good. Long was confident. I wasn't. They failed to ambush you last time, I warned him. They know you won't quit. If they're operating openly now, it's because they came ready for you. Be careful. Long laughed it off. Long shouldn't have. Long came back pale. The foxes had done the exact thing they did the first time, except this time they'd brought several Yuandan of their own and let the whole hunt walk straight into the same jaws. Last time I'd been there to pull the survivors out. This time nobody was, and the entire hunting party died in a field. Tanghua himself was a marked man now, tracked, and he had to run for the capital to warn the alliance. I needed a month to reach the next realm. I didn't have a month. I had that night. And Steward Gu Qing burst in with the worst of it. Young master, disaster. Clan head Wang Xuan is marching 1,500 Wang soldiers on the mansion, and 2,000 or 3,000 Jingquan troops who've been slipping into the city in disguise for days have surfaced all at once. They're surrounding us. They'd been waiting the whole time, holding still, playing dead, for exactly this. My whole defense was Steward Gu Qing, 1 fresh Yuan Dan, Shen Yi, 1 Jian Tian, 600 Azure Dragon Guards, and 1,800 City Watch who were, honestly, decoration. I got Tang Hua out first, through the secret passage in my father's study, so he'd live to be my witness. Then Steward Gu Qing and Shen Yi quietly made their peace with dying at the gate. "We'll fight to the death here," Steward Gu Qing said, calm as still water. "We're not afraid to die. When the Marquis returns, he'll avenge us." "Nobody's dying tonight," I told him, and I meant it in a way he couldn't understand yet. Wang Xuan's voice rolled over the whole city on a wave of true energy, loud enough that every street heard it. "Marquis Wang Jian's household has colluded with the Green Fox Demon Clan, betrayed the human race. Everyone has the right to kill them. Wang Xuan, get out here." I came out. As Wei Yue, there were 5 Yuan Dan on their side, Wang Xuan at 3rd level, Wang Long at 2nd, Fang Long at 3rd, Fang Mei at 2nd, Fang Ping at 1st, with hundreds of Xian Tian at their backs and thousands of soldiers behind them. Steward Gu Qing cursed Wang Xuan for a thief crying "Stop thief," and Wang Xuan only laughed and pointed at the fox rumor as his proof. It was the kind of standoff where the numbers say you're already dead. Then Hao Wang dropped out of the sky with Aunt Lan to defend me anyway, and my stomach fell. I did not want her bleeding for my house. Before I could send her off, someone else did it for me. Hao Kai arrived on a rooftop. The 9 Cauldrons Prince himself. 25 and 2nd level Yuan Dan, with an aura twice as heavy as any of the 3rd levels below him. "Hao Wang, come back!" His voice carried the weight of the whole clan. When she refused, he pulled rank by blood. The 9 cauldrons runs in your veins, every word you speak represents the clan, and locked his killing intent on her until her pretty face went white, and even Aunt Lan whispered that they couldn't afford to offend him. I gave her the exit she needed to take without losing face. Only by enduring humiliation can one carry heavy things. Only by knowing shame can one become brave. Go, I can handle this myself. She left burning to surpass him, and Hao Kai settled in to watch me die and quietly covet my furnace, which by now half the province wanted to peel off my corpse. A Wang prodigy named Wang Bo, Xiantian 9th layer, volunteered to open the show. Long came at Shen Yi instead of me because I looked like a joke, and 15 exchanges in he found the gap in my captain's guard and sent his blade for Shen Yi's throat. I let my sword out. Slow, it looked, but it arrived at exactly the moment his blade would have taken Shen Yi's head, slid out from behind my captain, and broke the killing stroke clean. Shen Yi stumbled clear and stared at the trash young lord's senior brother who just saved his life with one impossible cut. Across the way, Hao Kai's eyes narrowed. Longed clocked it. Pig pretending to eat the tiger. Make your move, I told Wang Bo. I'll give you 3 moves so no one can say I bullied the weak. The parry had cost him some essence. It seemed fair. Arrogant. Die. Long came anyway. Tiger roar, saber art, man and blade as one. First move, a leisurely half-step to the left, and his strike passed through the air where I'd been. 1 move, I said. Second move, I stepped behind him, planted my foot on the 7-inch weak point of his own slash, close enough to touch his back. 2 moves. From far off, Hao Wang couldn't help herself and gasped at the footwork. Third move, I said. Now it's my turn. I gave him the 1 move. My sword came out of his blind spot and took his head off his shoulders. Wang Bo, the Wang family's brightest hope, died at the gate of the house he'd come to burn, in front of the men who'd raised him. It happened so fast the whole courtyard needed a second to understand a body had fallen. Wang Xuan and Wang Long howled his name. Wang Long, 2nd level Yuan Dan, leaped out for revenge with the family's best blade art, the angry tiger wind and thunderblade, where the true essence tiger leaves the body and cuts from a full spear's length away. I couldn't tank that. My reserves were too thin to trade essence with a Yuan Dan, and his saber chi surged out and blocked every path I had, so I pulled out a shield. An actual shield. Cold steel, over a meter tall, sword in one hand, this ridiculous slab in the other, looking exactly like a man who'd wandered onto the wrong battlefield. And the whole watching crowd finally saw the thing that delighted my enemies. I wasn't Yuan Dan. A Yuan Dan has a protective aura and doesn't need a hunk of iron. The moment they saw the shield, the truth clicked for all of them at once. Hao Kai laughed on his roof. Wang Xuan's shoulders came down, and Wang Long's confidence went straight through the sky. Good, that was the entire point. His raging tiger saber chi slammed into the steel and scored it, but couldn't break it. So he switched to the blade itself, and his treasured sword cut through iron like mud. Down came the strike, meant to split me and the shield in 2. I let go of the shield and took half a step back. His sword cleaved the abandoned steel clean through, and in the exact half beat where his old force was spent and his new force wasn't born, in the blind spot the cleaving stroke opened, my divine body sword slid out, through his true essence aura, through his chi men point below the heart, up through the heart meridian. A Xiantian would need 3 or 4 strikes to break a Yuan Dan's protective aura. I needed 1, and I put it exactly where it needed to go. Wang Long, 2nd level Yuan Dan, died with his own broken shield still falling, killed by a man who wasn't even Yuan Dan, and the whole province's understanding of the world cracked down the middle. Aunt Lan said it out loud to Hao Wang. I never believed a lower realm could kill a higher one without a treasure. Now I believe it. No matter how strong your power, it's useless if you can't land it. No matter how low your realm, if you seize the opening and pierce the vitals, you can kill your better. Hao Kai stopped smiling. Long looked at me the way you look at a debt that's going to come due, and decided, right there on his rooftop, that I could not be allowed to live. The 4 remaining Yuandan, Wang Xuan, Fang Long, Fang Mei, Fang Ping, gave up on dignity and rushed me together. 4 on 1, in front of the whole city. Steward Gu Qing went to help, and I waved him off. Hao Wang drew her blade, and I waved her off too. Catching all 4 in one place was a gift I had no intention of refusing. They came in a flanking pattern, blades spitting chi from every angle, certain a non-Yuandan couldn't survive it. And I stood still and set my furnace down in front of me. The whole province leaned in. Because the rusty soup pot half of them had come to steal, lit up with a spirituality that told every expert in the crowd exactly what it was. Profound rank. Hao Kai's greed nearly ate him alive on the spot. Wang Xuan and the Fang elders knew only that it was a treasure, not that it was death. The 4 closed the last few feet, saber chi already swinging. Burn, I said. 4 fire dragons erupted out of my little furnace at once. Yuandan true essence is tissue paper in front of a Xuan tier grade 3 cauldron's fire. Their saber chi died in it, then their protective auras died in it, and about 1 breath later, 4 Yuandan grandmasters, the pillars of 2 great families, were 4 smears of ash on my courtyard stones. The crowd stopped breathing. So did every man who'd come to rob me. Killing a Yuandan to steal a treasure is one thing. Killing 4 of them with a single thought is a different kind of arithmetic, and everyone quietly redid the sum on themselves. The Wang and Jinqian forces had no Yuandan left, so they did what leaderless armies do. They panicked. Then they rallied, because they were going to die anyway and might as well take me with them. Thousands of soldiers, 500 or 600 Jiantian among them, came in a spear wall. I swallowed a chi-restoring pill, threw my furnace like a meteor to save my reserves, and charged in behind it, a tiger among rabbits. It doesn't matter how many rabbits there are. I mowed a road through the phalanx and the elite Jiantian behind it, slapping the furnace back into flight every time it stopped. I killed most of their captains and pulled up, because I wanted prisoners, Wang family men who could confess the collusion out loud. Steward Gu Qing and Shen Yi held the guards back and watched their doomed house win a battle without lifting a blade, blood boiling with something that wasn't fear anymore. And that's when the untimely voice rang out again. Hao Kai dropped off his roof into the middle of the killing floor, branding my whole household demon colluders and traitors to the human race, giving himself the most righteous possible excuse to murder me and pry my furnace off my body. "Silence means consent," he shouted to the crowd. "Tonight I act on behalf of heaven and slay him here." Behind him came 500 or 600 9 cauldrons guards and the 3 Yuandan of the local Juding chamber. The exact 3 who'd guarded my mansion for Hao Wang a few days ago now flipped to him the instant she was dismissed. Somebody in the crowd helpfully supplied his motive out loud. "Prince Hao Kai has fallen for Princess Chen Shi, and Chen Shi's betrothed to that trash young lord." Ah, so this wasn't only greed, it was a jilted suitor with an army. Small world, getting smaller and more homicidal by the minute. Hao Kai stood in a courtyard full of ash and demanded I confess to demon collusion, so he'd have a lawful reason to rob me. Hao Wang, who had not, in fact, left, stepped to my side and took him apart in front of everyone. "The 9 cauldrons stays neutral," she snapped. "Only the demon-hunting alliance can convict a man of demon ties. Until they do, you're slandering him to justify a mugging, and making the whole world laugh at our clan for it." Long threatened to kill her where she stood. Aunt Lan warned him, low, that a daylight clan murder would doom them both by their own rules, and his own elder pulled him back. I sent Hao Wang away again for her life, and Kai declared to the crowd that he'd execute me on behalf of heaven. Then Tonghua came back. Long hadn't made it out. The foxes had eyes on him at the gate, so he walked into the middle of the standoff, tore off his mask, and demolished Hao Kai with pure logic. "Qing accused me of colluding without evidence? Then prove you don't collude with the foxes. When I started killing the Yao race, you were still wetting your pants." Then, formally, as a captain of the Yindao Demon Hunting Group, he testified to the entire city. Marquis Mansion had never colluded with anyone. It had saved his hunters repeatedly from the Green Fox Demon clan, and the real traitor everyone should be hunting was the Wang family, the exact family Prince Hao Kai had ridden in to defend. The emperor's whole beautiful frame collapsed in public, in one breath, out of the mouth of a neutral demon hunter with nothing to gain by lying. Whispers rippled through the watching factions. Everyone had always half known the throne was behind this. Now a witness had said it in daylight, and Hao Kai, cornered, humiliated, unable to touch me with the whole world watching, did what small furious men do. Long turned his blade on the Wang and Jinqian survivors instead, screaming that demon colluders deserve death. His elder Uncle Tao picked up the cue and spun it as the 9 cauldrons purging traitors, salvaging the clan's face. 5,000 or 6,000 people got slaughtered by the men who'd come to save them, and nobody lifted a finger, because a demon colluder is fair game. It was, if you squinted, elegant. The emperor's own cat's paws, erased by the emperor's own ally, so no dead man could ever trace the trail back to the throne. Kai left promising to take my furnace by stealth since he couldn't take it by force. I'm always ready, I told him. I meant it. Afterward, I brought Tang Hua, Hao Wang, and Aunt Lan inside and thanked the people who'd stood up for a doomed house. Tang Hua stayed at my mansion, openly, as bait, betting his life that the foxes wouldn't dare kill him in front of every faction in the city while he waited for the alliance to send real strength. Hao Wang rode home to report to her clan, and I warned her that Kai was not a man who forgets. I'm to be a princess of the 9 cauldrons, she said. Long wouldn't dare. In his room that same night, raging over his humiliation, Hao Kai ordered his men to watch her, and if she left the city, to take her. Long had plans for her that I don't need to describe, and that make my hands go cold to remember. I had my own hunt. Shen Yi found Wang Lei's hideout, but the foxes had already been there, a dry well full of acid corpse sludge, everyone silenced. So I followed the demonic chi with my divine sense, through the tunnels and the crowded streets, to a house where the foxes had murdered a family of 7 for the address. Inside was Qinghu Gao, the original assassin from my courtyard, the brother Yan who'd guarded Wang Lei, and, it turned out, the favorite youngest son of Green Fox Kun himself, clan chief of every fox in the kingdom. His own elders were begging him to flee. Long refused, because he wanted to stay and watch his clan's grand elders rob me. So I kicked the door in. Qing killed a whole family and you still want to leave? Too late. Today's your death day. His 2 Xiantian guards went full demon form to buy his escape and died in my furnace fire. When Qinghu Gao hid his flight treasure and bolted for the rafters, I threw the scalding furnace after him like a meteor, shattered his wings, and slammed him to the floor with his organs cooked. I didn't kill him, I healed him, because a corpse tells you nothing, and this one had a father who ran every fox in the kingdom and secrets I wanted very much. Shen Yi and Tang Hua arrived to find me kneeling over a live fox demon, needling him back from the edge, and stared like I'd grown a second head. Tang Hua went pale when he heard the boy's name. Killing Qinghu Gao, he warned me, meant a blood feud with his father, Green Fox Kun, clan chief of every fox in the kingdom, the kind of feud that ends in a slaughtered city. Even the alliance wouldn't casually kill a captive that important, so we'd hand him over, not kill him. Qinghu Gao laughed at all of us. Kill me if you dare. If you get a single word out of my mouth, I'll take the surname of every woman in your family. Everyone in the room said the Yao race would rather die than talk. Everyone was about to learn what I do with gold needles. I stuck 108 of them into him, and I waited. At first he sneered. This was tickling. Then the needles began to itch, then to burn. Then it felt like a million ants were eating him from the inside of the bone, and the horror in his eyes went from contempt to a very specific kind of prayer. It's not pain in the body, it's pain that comes out of the soul. It won't kill you, and it won't let you faint. 1 cup of tea later, the mighty son of the Fox clan chief was begging me to stop and offering me the world. Give me a cup of tea, and they always talk. Every single one of them. Long named Wen Hao, the emperor's favorite court jester, his most loyal dog, as the man who'd hired the foxes to frame my house. Not the throne directly, of course. The throne never touches anything directly. Wen Hao was just the next scapegoat, and Steward Gu Qing guessed correctly that the emperor would silence him the instant the news reached the capital. Long was right. Wen Hao's head was delivered to his majesty before dawn, wrapped and clean, and a whole conspiracy lost its only living thread to the crown. Qinghu Gao told me the rest, too. His clan's work in my city was done, but the moment they'd heard about my profound rank furnace, 5 of their Yuandan elders were coming to my mansion that very night to kill me and take it. Qinghu Bo and Qinghu Ge at the 5th level, Qinghu Ran and Qinghu Hu at the 4th, Qinghu Wang at the 3rd, everyone carrying a defensive treasure. Everyone in the room told me to run. 3 Yuandan with treasures was a bad day for me on the best of days. 5 was a funeral. Tang Hua and Steward Gu Qing begged me to hide the crippled prince and flee, so I did the sensible thing. I looted the dead. I took the storage rings off the 4 Yuandan and off Qinghu Gao, ignored the mountains of gold, and kept 2 things, Qinghu Gao's flight treasure and his defensive treasure. Then I reforged them. Here's the trick nobody in this world could copy. I dripped my own Xia Lei divine blood into them through the cauldron fire. Divine blood is the ultimate treasure of heaven and earth, and it did to those flight wings what a flood does to a stream. The yellow rank 4 wings doubled in speed, faster now than any Yuandan alive, unless one of them carried better wings than mine. The yellow rank 3 shield learned to tank 3 or 4 full hits. My one weakness had always been speed. Now, I was quicker than the men hunting me, and I could take a punch besides, which meant I didn't have to run. A god does not hide from vermin, not when he finally has the legs to catch them. So I had the mansion emptied as bait, spread word so the whole city would watch, because a fox elder is cautious in a crowd, and I waited for 5 demons to come and die. Steward Gu Qing begged me one last time to slip out the dark passage. I sent him off through the front gate instead, so every hidden eye in the city would see me stay, and the foxes would know exactly where their prize was. Then, a courier galloped up out of the empty street with a sealed box for Wei Yue. Careful, it could be poison, Steward Gu Qing said. It wasn't poison. I opened it, and Aunt Lan's severed head was inside. Hao Wang's old bodyguard, the woman who'd stood at her shoulder that afternoon and called Wang Lei a dead man, gone. Steward Gu Qing staggered back, sick. I stood there and didn't move because moving meant deciding something, and I already knew what the letter tucked into the box was going to say before I unfolded it. That bitch Hao Wang is in my hands. Come to Baoyan Mountain by midnight, or her head comes to your gate tomorrow. I knew the handwriting on the world well enough to know whose hand it was, Hao Kai. Long made two mistakes tonight. The first was thinking a hostage would freeze me. The second was thinking I'd come to Baoyan Mountain to negotiate. I let the terrified courier keep his 10,000 taels and his life. He was just a man carrying a box. The man I wanted was on a mountain. I was already on my way there, and the 5 fox elders coming to kill me were about to give me a very convenient reason to leave the city empty. I rode out the south gate openly, which did 2 useful things at once. It pulled the 5 fox elders off my empty city, and it pointed me at the mountain where they were holding my friend. The whole watching city decided the trash had lost his nerve and fled. The 5 foxes decided the same and gave chase, tracking me with a wolf eagle circling overhead, certain that beyond the walls, with nobody to see, they could tear me apart at their leisure. I stopped at a ruined mountain god temple 200 li out, tied my horse in the rubble, and waited. When the 5 demons surrounded me in full form, 2.5 meters each, blades and daggers out, Qinghu Bo and Qinghu Ge at 5th level, Ran and Hu at 4th, Wang at 3rd, they were confused that the fleeing lamb was standing in the open. Qing, really think you can escape all 5 of us? Qinghu Bo asked. Qing have got it backwards, I said. I don't want to escape. I came to kill all 5 of you. They laughed. They had shields, and to them my cauldron fire was a party trick that couldn't touch 5 defensive treasures. Qinghu Bo didn't waste breath. 4 of them came in from 4 sides, while Qinghu Wang hung back to cut off my escape. 2 knives and 2 swords. Front, back, left, right, every path closed. Then I opened the flight wings I'd reforged with divine blood and broke their encirclement straight up into the air. Flight treasure. Long has a flight treasure. All 5 cried it at once, and their whole plan came apart because a non-Yuan with better wings than theirs is not a thing that's supposed to exist. After that, it was housework, and I did it 1 demon at a time. I hurled the furnace like a falling star at Qinghu Ran. 3 of them blocked it together and staggered. Then the cauldron fire erupted from inside the pot and washed over all 3, and their shields lit up. I dove behind the throw. When Qinghu Bo's 5th level saber chi came for me, I folded my wings, slid past it to the furnace, and slapped the pot into Qinghu Ge, who was closest. Meteor first, then fire. His shield ate the impact and held. A second bolt of cauldron fire cracked it. A third burned a 5th level fox elder to nothing while his brothers screamed. Qinghu ran next. I lifted him weightless off the ground with a divine body sword strike to the 7-inch of his own motion. And while he hung there with nowhere to grab, the furnace fire took him too. 2 down, and the survivors finally understood that 5-on-1 wasn't a fight. It was a line for the furnace. Qinghu Bo, the leader, played his ace, a yellow rank purple thunder tablet that summoned lightning. 3 bolts, each meaner than my cauldron fire, hammered down on me at once, and the 2 remaining foxes rushed in to pin me while the sky fell. Long didn't know what my body was. I ran the Taishu Thunder Sutra and drank the lightning. My divine veins refined the thunder origin and poured it straight back into my reserves, and the one attack that should have ended me instead topped up my tank. The leader watched his trump card refuel his prey and couldn't understand it. I killed Qinghu Hu as he broke and ran. I ran down Qinghu Wang 100 meters out, my wings twice his speed, and burned him from above. And then it was just Qinghu Bo, cornered, hurling his last thunder while I fed on it, until his yellow rank 5 shield cracked under 7 rockets of cauldron fire, and he went up like the rest, roaring that his clan would avenge them. 5 Yuan Dan fox elders, all ash. I thanked the leader's corpse for the free thunder, because without it, I'd have had to spend real effort. Then I looted about 20 million taels of silver notes off them, the throne's payoff to the whole clan, and pocketed the purple thunder tablet, which I planned to reforge into something that would make its old owner weep. When I looked up, the wolf eagle that had been tracking me was simply gone. I still had a mountain to climb, and a friend on it, and a prince who was about to make the worst decision of his short, ugly life. Baoyan Mountain is an active volcano crawling with flame-tailed snakes whose venom kills a Yuan Dan in a dozen breaths. Hao Kai picked it on purpose. I wasn't Yuan Dan. I had no protective aura, and to reach the summit I'd have to wade up through a forest full of poison. Long had snake-repelling powder. I had a body that laughs at poison, but he didn't know that, and a man who plans a trap around your weakness has already told you where his blind spot is. Up top, he had Hao Wang bound and drugged helpless on the crater's edge, guarded by his elders and the 3 flipped Juding Yuan Dan. She was telling him the truth even then, that threatening me with her was pointless, that I owed her nothing. And he admitted, smiling, that he'd behead her either way to bait me, and that if I didn't come, he'd simply have enjoyed himself first. Then he started to. Long was a man who'd been betrayed once by someone he trusted, and had decided cruelty was the only honest thing left in the world. Long moved to prove it. Long was very focused on the woman. Long didn't hear me until I was already falling out of the sky. I'd caught his laughter from the foot of the mountain, spread my wings, and flown straight to the summit. My sword came down and blasted him off her, and off the warm jade bed before he could finish the thing he was about to do. His elders and the 3 Jioding Yuandan rushed me, and I let them, because with Hao Kai's shield knocked aside, there was nothing between them and my furnace. 1 volley of fire dragons, and every guard on that mountaintop was ash. Hao Kai steadied himself, looked around at his men gone, and started begging. Spare me. My father is an elder of the imperial clan. The 9 cauldrons will never let you. When you cut off Aunt Lan's head, I asked him, did you think about sparing her? Her life wasn't worth a fraction of mine. In my eyes, I said, your life is worth exactly as much as an ant's. If your father dares come for me, I'll send them both to the afterlife together. Then I burned him through his 9 cauldrons jade token and swept his rings off the ash. Hao Wang was still burning up, half out of her mind on the drug. I detoxed her the way I detoxed Wen Yue, gold needles, acupoints, the cold flow running the poison out through her meridians, my eyes clear the whole time, and I healed the old injuries in her while I was at it. When she came back to herself and understood it wasn't Hao Kai touching her, but the man who'd flown across a mountain to save a woman he owed nothing, she pledged her life to me on the spot. Don't, I told her. Go vanish. Hit the 9th layer of Yuan Dan in a few years with the pills I gave you, and then Kai's faction won't dare touch you. There's no evidence he's dead. Live. I gave her my black horse and sent her down the mountain alone. Then I stayed, because the whole time I'd been treating her, my divine sense had been snagging on something down in the crater. Past the churning lava, on a reef of fire jade, grew a flower. The earth flame infant burning flower. 2,700 years old, 9 petals, the kind of spirit treasure that refines the exact pills a Yuan Dan 9 expert needs to break into the next realm, the Ning Ying realm. My father was a Yuan Dan 9 at great perfection. If he could ever reach Ning Ying, even the imperial clan would have to look up at him. So I dove past the lava and I plucked 1 petal, just 1, so the flower would live and keep growing. And that's when the crater exploded. The flower had a guardian, a flame-tailed snake king, a Ning Ying realm beast, whose lair was the magma itself, which is why I hadn't sensed it. It vomited a river of lava at me, more killing power than a full-strength strike from any of the fox elders I'd just burned. And it was only my furnace, riding that lava tide like a little boat, the cauldron fire holding the heat off my shield, that carried me up and out of the crater before I cooked. I fled into the sky with 1 petal and a heart still hammering, and I decided firmly that 1 petal was plenty. By morning, I had a flower petal that could push my father toward godhood-adjacent power, and the crisis in my city was already over. The Wang family dead, the foxes withdrawn, the Alliance's eyes finally on the place. So I flew home to hold things together, and for the first time in 2 lives, everything was moving in a direction I'd chosen. Back in the capital, the emperor was not celebrating. Emperor Chen Guang read the reports from my city and slumped in his dragon chair, hollow-eyed. The trash young lord had a hidden alchemist master, powerful allies, and a senior brother named Wei Yue who'd single-handedly gutted his whole scheme. Longed hoped the collusion charge would let him wipe out Duke Jin Chen. Instead, his cat's paws were ash. Long was afraid. And under the fear, watching his sworn brother's family survive, he felt something he couldn't name and wouldn't say, that he might be the villain of his own story. His daughter did not have that problem. Chen Shi read the same reports and stayed cold as lake ice. A sect is a sect, and a grudge is a grudge, she said. A master doesn't inherit his disciples' feuds. The real target was always Marquis Wang Jian. Her plan was clean. Silence Wen Hao. Done. Head delivered. Then corrupt the one neutral power that could ruin them. Seduce and puppet Fang Xiao, the dissolute son of the Demon Hunting Alliance's branch chairman, and use him to bury the evidence and turn the alliance on my house. Her father worried she'd sacrifice too much of herself for it. Don't worry, father, she said. I'll have him begging at my feet before he touches my hand. And when he pressed her on how she meant to kill my father, she told him only that there were organizations in this world that would take the head of an extraordinary expert for the right price, and that she alone could reach one. Don't pry, she said. Some things wouldn't be good for you, or for the clan, to know. A dark, eerie light moved behind her eyes as she said it, the kind of thing that made her own father's soul shudder. Whatever his daughter had become, it wasn't only a prodigy anymore. Long backed off. Long always backed off. I felt none of it. But I felt the weather changing, the way you feel a storm in a bad knee, and I kept climbing. Reforged all 6 fox treasures with divine blood, pushed the purple thunder tablet past 10 times its rated power, stepped into the 2nd level of the divine meridian realm. Then Tong Hua's daughter came to my gate, Tong Qing, 16, in tears, begging for the senior brother named Wei Yue. Her father had made it back to his own headquarters, only for the group's 2nd commander, Xu Guo, to brand him a demon colluder and throw him in a cell. Xu Guo had been bought by the emperor, of course. The one witness who could clear my house was being buried by the very group he'd bled for. I was still turning that over when a squad of Xu Guo's men stormed my mansion to seize my prisoner Qinghu Gao and grab the girl too. Their captain, a 5th-level Yuan Dan named Shen Qi, told me to stay out of the Yindao group's business. Whose face am I supposed to give? I asked him. Yours or the whole group's? The group's, he said. Then it's the group, I said, that chose to help the emperor bury Tong Hua and come to my door. And I turned my furnace on him, burned his aura down, spared him at the edge of death, and needled his 3 Yuan Dan until they broke on the floor and confessed. Xue Guo had framed Tong Hua on orders and bribes, and Tong Hua was alive in a cell. Then I sent one of them home with a message. Tell Shui Guo he'll free Tang Hua and come, personally, to my mansion to apologize within 3 days. Or I behead his men, and then I come to his headquarters and take his head off myself. Steward Gu Qing nearly fainted. Shui Guo was ranked 16th on the whole kingdom's earth ranking, a grand master whose mere arrival made men shake, and I just ordered him to grovel at my gate. Even my father wouldn't say such a thing. Do you think I could handle 5 Fox Yuan Dan before I killed them? I asked. That shut him up. Then I told him not to worry about the bigger enemy underneath this one either, because Qinghu Gao's father, Green Fox Kun, a near Ningying clan chief, might well come to my city to rescue his son. We defended a grandmaster and a demon king with one afternoon's work. Shui Guo took the bait the way a proud, greedy man takes bait. Insulted past bearing and coveting a profound rank furnace that would supercharge his own fire cultivation, he mustered 200 men and 30-odd yuan dan and marched on my city to kill me and rob me. And in the capital, the emperor gloated that Wei Yue had finally done something impulsive and stupid, while Chen Shi frowned at the exact same news and saw a man who came prepared. She counterbaited, publicized that Marquis Mansion held Qinghu Gao to lure the whole Fox clan and Green Fox Kun himself. Publicized that Wei Yue owned a profound rank treasure to lure every hunter in the kingdom. A common man is innocent, she said, but a man with a treasure is a crime waiting to be prosecuted by anyone strong enough to try. So the whole province started converging on one city to kill one man for one rusty pot. Shui Guo pulled up outside my south gate on a warhorse the size of a small house, 200 men and 30 yuan dan at his back. Long gave my mansion 1 hour to hand over his captured captain and my prisoner and crawl to the gate to apologize, or he'd behead Tang Hua and paint the city red. The whole watching province had already written my epitaph. This wasn't the Wang family, they whispered. This man had a defensive treasure and an offensive treasure, and he'd earned his earth ranking with the 2 black blades on his hip. I rode out with my prisoner and my captain and looked him over. My newly opened eye meridians read the fire cultivation in him, the saber intent, a man standing on the very lip of the Ningying realm and not over it. Long read me back and saw a boy who wasn't even Yuan Dan, and his contempt made him careless, which is the only mercy I ever offer. First, I settled the frame. I dragged Qinghu Gao out in front of the whole city, made him drop his human skin, and made him confess his own clan chief bloodline, Wen Hao's hire, the plot against my house, while 1,000 factions listened and quietly understood that the throne itself was behind all of it. Then I offered the swap. Free Tang Hua, and I'll free your captain and even hand you the fox. Shui Guo took it, because refusing to save his own men in public would break his 2nd Regiment's spine. They walked out a tortured, half-dead Tang Hua, who promptly quit the Yindao group in front of everyone and joined my house. And I handed Qinghu Gao across the line like a live grenade, because the moment they took the Fox clan chief's son, they took the Fox clan chief's wrath with him. Qinghu Gao solved that for everyone. The second he reached his new captors, he tore free, drew the dagger I'd let him keep, and cut his own throat. A traitor who'd sold his clan's secrets had nowhere left to live, and he knew it. Dead men keep secrets. So do disgraced ones, apparently, if you give them a blade. Now it was just Shui Guo and me, and the thing he actually came for. Long demanded I kneel and cut out my tongue. It wasn't a peace term. It was a man looking for a lawful excuse to kill me and pry a fire treasure off my corpse, because a profound rank furnace in the hands of a fire cultivator would let him touch the realm he'd been clawing at for years. Tang Hua tried to offer his own life in my place. I stopped him. Long's after me, I said, and you know it. Then I gave the Grandmaster exactly what he wanted. I accepted a duel to the death. Winner's grudge void, publicly witnessed, which, as a bonus, scared off every other treasure hunter in the crowd. Long wanted a legal reason to kill me. I wanted a legal reason to kill him. Long was kind enough to bring one for both of us. I set my furnace down and drew a plain sword. Long laughed and offered me 3 moves so no one could say he'd bullied a child. I gave him a look instead of a thank you, and he snatched the offer back and came at me. Twin black blades, saber intent tall enough to raise the hair on every neck within 100 meters. Fire origin gathering to him like the world had picked a side. It was, genuinely, the strongest strike I'd faced yet in this life. It was also, to a reborn god, a baby showing off how fast it could crawl. I let a furnace rocket meet his first move and force him to defend. Long shattered it with his twin blades, the first man ever to do that, which told the whole crowd he was the real thing. Then I hid behind the furnace and let it be a shield and let him cut at it, and every clang sent that strange recoil up his arms and stuttered his rhythm. I burned a sea of fire around us that his yellow rank shield could weather for 20 breaths, then condensed it back into rockets when he relaxed. I made him fight the pot, not me. And when he finally lunged in close, certain the rockets were spent, I stepped out from behind the furnace with a different weapon in my right hand. A greatsword. A 365 caddy blunt greatsword. The kind a Yuandan fox needs 2 hands to swing. Held one-handed. The crowd made a sound. Zhueguo's twin blades met it, and my divine body strength poured up through the contact, a small force moving a great weight, aimed at the pivot of his own motion, and his arms went numb and his rhythm died on the spot. From there, it was a beating. Furnace rockets to force his shield, great sword to grind it down, his yellow rank shield bleeding a tenth of itself with every rocket. Long tried his ace, a yellow rank binding vine. I torched it out of the air. His son broke the duel pact and charged in to save him. I blasted the boy back without looking, and when the shield finally shattered, I put the great sword against his throat and let the fire die. 16th on the earth ranking, on his knees, with a sword at his neck, held there by a man who wasn't even Yuandan. The whole province recalculated my number, and this time it came out at heaven ranking. I didn't kill him. Killing him meant war with the whole Yindao group, and my house couldn't afford another enemy that size. So I let him choose to live, and forced a public confession out of him instead. The Alliance's own branch chairman had brokered the Emperor's bribe, and he'd coveted my furnace besides. Then, before he could finish tearing the throne's mask off in front of everyone, I stepped in and said, mildly, that this was only Zhueguo's side of the story, and that the chairman and the Imperial clan were owed a chance to explain, which kept my moral high ground spotless, deferred a war I wasn't ready for, and left Zhueguo twisting, a grandmaster whose word I'd just called suspect, welcome nowhere. To Steward Gu Qing, in private, I said the other thing. If the throne forces this, then the emperor is forcing the subject to rebel, and no man in history has blamed a subject for that. I watched the yellow robe idea take root behind his eyes. My father didn't want a throne, but thrones have a way of falling on the heads of men who keep winning. The foxes weren't done with me, though, and this time it was their grand elders. Two of the clan's 9, Qinghu Wei and Qinghu Long, Yuandan 9 monsters at heaven-ranking strength, had come to rescue Qinghu Gao and arrived to find him a corpse. So they improvised something genuinely clever. Zhueguo had left my duel looking fine and secretly gutted. My furnace fire had scorched his Dantian and Meridian's hollow, which is exactly why I'd let him live. A man that broken can't cause trouble for years. The foxes tracked his wounded convoy to a riverbank camp that night, cut through his patrols, and cornered him. Long begged the unspoken rule. Kill a ranked human grandmaster and you unite every faction against your clan. They laughed, because they had a better idea. Hang his head on my city's gate, then let the world guess who did it. Zhueguo understood, at the end, that he'd been a chess piece the whole time, and he died cursing my name and begging the foxes to make Wei Yue wish he'd never been born. They took his head, and 100 more. I felt the wrongness of it that same night, mid-cultivation, a dread with no source, and my gut told me it wasn't about the foxes at all. It was about the North, about my father. I decided right then that I couldn't wait for a formation flag anymore. I'd ride for the front at first light. At dawn, the city gate guards opened the walls and found 110 heads nailed to them, Zhueguo's dead eyes among them, and the whole city screamed. Whether or not my house had done it, we couldn't escape the blame, and the frame had flipped again, handing the Yindao group and the throne a fresh, righteous reason to demand my blood. And now the real leader of the Yindao group, Gu Jing, 10th on the heaven ranking, upright, my father's peer in strength, would have to come. I'd been winning for so long I'd forgotten how fast this world turns hostile. The move was to get the young Marquis to the front. If my father had his son at his side, he'd have no weakness left, and the throne's whole scheme would fall apart. So I built a decoy. I dressed a loyal young cavalry soldier in my own face, spread word that Wei Yue was escorting the young Marquis north, and let the real young Marquis slip out under cover. The whole kingdom held its breath. If Wang Jian's son reached Wang Jian, the great Chen dynasty was finished. And the 2 Fox Grand Elders, along with 11 more of their Yuandan, took the bait and gave chase, because a son held hostage would let them puppet my father and rule the kingdom from the shadows. That was their dream. A war god on a leash, an emperor of their own making. The road north is 5,000 or 6,000 li through a dozen guarded choke points. I rode most of it with the soldier playing the double, and at Dongju town I sent the boy off to safety with a cultivation art as thanks for his nerve. Long been ready to die wearing my face, and he never once flinched. Alone that night, running the Taishu Thunder Sutra, I finally understood the thing I'd never understood in my last life. Because I'd become a god before I built the foundation, I'd only ever seen the sutra through fog, form without essence, planting hidden flaws in every step I took after. This time I'd built it from the ground up, and the mysteries opened for me like clouds parting to show the sun. My mind merged into the thunderheads. I could feel every ripple in the sky for 10 miles at a stroke, and I climbed straight into the 4th level of the divine meridian realm in under an hour. Which is how I felt 13 fox auras closing on the town, 2 of them grand elders, long before they felt me. They'd come to seize the young Marquis. So I peeled the 2 grand elders off the pack with a scarecrow on a galloping horse decoy, a straw doll wearing a scrap of my aura, and sent it bolting from the inn's stable to draw the 2 strongest away. And when the 11 lesser elders started butchering the inn's guests to find their prize, a fox with a bloody sword, a mother and her little girl cornered against a wall, I stopped waiting. My reforged purple thunder tablet, now punching at yellow rank 7 or 8, one-shot them through their shields, one after another, lightning stitching through the dark inn room by room. I saved the mother and daughter mid-scream, told them to hide in the closet, and 11 fox elders died in about a dozen breaths. Then the 2 grand elders came back, found their 11 gone, and cornered me by a river outside the town. Qinghu Wei and Qinghu Long, Yuan Dan 9, heaven ranking strength. And this was the first fight since my rebirth I genuinely might lose. Their treasures outclassed mine. Qinghu Long carried a yellow rank 2 wind magic sword, Qinghu Wei a yellow rank 8 gourd, and they fought as a pair, one near, one far, yin and yang. The near one ground me down with a blade I couldn't outpower. The far one quietly poured essence into that gourd, breath after breath, building something that would come out once and come out to end me. So I played the furnace as a shield, spun it to shed the wind blade's chi, and felt out Qinghu Long's swordplay while I watched Qinghu Levi's gourd swell. I stalled. I let Qinghu Long tire himself against my pot, and when the gourd's mouth finally opened, I did the only thing that could turn a losing fight. I used one of them as a shield to kill the other. Qinghu Wei's gourd finally opened, and it birthed 72 blades of corrosive sword chi, each one a thunderbolt. All of them locked onto me and only me. The gourd doesn't tell friend from foe once it fires, it just hunts whoever it was pointed at. So I stopped defending against Qinghu Long and started arranging him. 3 sword taps, each one seeming to miss. Each one striking the 7-inch of his own motion, a point, a flick, a lift. And on the third, I peeled him off the ground, weightless, a feather with nowhere to grab. And I stayed close, shadowing him, so that between him and the incoming swarm, there was only him. The 72 gourd swords, aimed at where I was, poured into the Grand Elder floating between us instead. Qinghu Long's own partner shredded him through a yellow rank 7 shield, and he died staring at Qinghu Wei with an expression I will treasure for the rest of both my lives. Qinghu Wei stood there and could not understand how a winning hand had turned into fratricide. In the beginning, it had been Qinghu Long beating me bloody. How, in a blink, was Qinghu Long ash, killed by the gourd Qinghu Wei had spent so long charging? Long charged me in fury, down to a 5th of his essence with his gourd on a long cooldown, and I outfenced him. Greatsword to his mortal blade, 3 strikes to suppress him, and then the purple thunder tablet stacking 10 paralysis bolts onto his shield until it cracked. Down, but breathing. I spared him, because a live fox grand elder is worth more than a dead one when the throne is trying to frame my house for demon collusion. I sealed his dantian, took his treasures, and needled his throat shut. Then I needled the rest of him until the mighty grand elder was begging the same way his clan chief's son had begged, and I got what I wanted. The foxes killed Shueguo on their own. Yes, he gasped. Grand Elder Long and I decided it after we saw you beat him, to use one enemy to kill another and let our clan profit. And in the north, did your clan touch Marquis Wang Jian? Never. Even our clan chief gives himself only even odds against him. We wouldn't dare lay a hand on that man. And there it was, the thing that turned my stomach cold. It wasn't the foxes threatening my father. So who was it? The unease I'd carried since the riverbank got heavier. I put that worry away and did the practical thing. I coerced Qinghu Wei into agreeing to go testify to the Yindao group that his own clan had killed Shueguo, which would void the frame at my gate. Then I reforged his treasures and his dead brothers with divine blood, and I woke up richer than a grandmaster. A yellow rank 8 gourd. A yellow rank wind magic sword. A yellow rank 7 shield. Yellow rank 5 wings. And the purple thunder tablet. From here down, I told myself, nothing below the Ningying realm gets to scare me. Down in the capital, Chen Si sat in a warm jade meditation chamber, and something wrong was breathing out of her pores. A black, sinister aura that wasn't human race cultivation, and wasn't Yao race either. When she opened her eyes, they were solid black before she blinked them back to human. She'd rocketed to the innate realm in a matter of days, a speed that shouldn't exist. She met her father calmly and told him not to fear. The assassin she'd hired for Marquis Wang Jian had probably already reached the front. Their next gate for me was Shanyuan City, held by Prince Lei. Prince Shanke, 25th on the whole kingdom's heaven ranking, the emperor's own marshal younger brother, one of the 5 strongest men in the clan. And Hao Huayan, ranked 8th, the Juding branch chairman whose son I'd burned on that mountaintop, was somewhere grieving and sharpening a knife. I felt none of the details. I only knew that the closer I got to the north, the worse the dread got. By dawn, I was a hair from the 5th level of the Divine Meridian Realm, and I refused to stop for it. I bought fresh horses, dragged my crippled fox grand elder along in the young Marquis's clothes, and rode. My father was up there somewhere. And every mile, the feeling got louder that I was already too late. The Empire had choke points on every road, demon catching powder on the ground, wolf eagles in the sky. At a purple dragon checkpoint, a general named Xu Hua recognized us and told me, apologetically, that Prince Lei was waiting for me in Shanyuan City. The name Prince Shanke lit a cold fire in me. In my last life, he was one of the 9 grandmasters who besieged my father at the execution ground. I told Xu Hua his whole battalion could disperse, that I'd go to Shanyuan City and take Prince Shanke's head myself. Long didn't move, so I started counting. 1. Long froze. 2. 300 soldiers of the Imperial Guard broke and ran from a boy who wasn't even Yuan Dan before I ever reached 3. I shot the wolf eagles out of the sky, buried my fox grand elder up to his neck as a hostage, and rode into the city alone. Prince Lei had turned his lakeside manor into a living sword domain, his intent so fine it cut mosquitoes out of the air, a dead ring of insects lying in the grass around him. His elder Chen Wu sealed the exits behind me. I walked in, and my furnace fire wrenched the whole environment out of Lei's control, because a reborn god does not get impressed by a man who murders bugs with his aura. Lei felt his own domain reject him, saw the furnace, and shifted from killing me to robbing me, the way they all do. His famous Xuanlong sword pierced 3 of my furnace rockets with a single stroke, genuinely skilled, more elegant than Shui Guo, and still couldn't touch me through the furnace shield. So I gave him the wind magic sword, shattered his mortal blade at the 7-inch, cracked his shields one after another. His last card was a yellow rank 6 Tai Thunder Bottle, 3 lightning dragons that would have ended most men. Long summoned thunderheads to power it, delighted. Long had no idea he was feeding a god who eats lightning. My thunder body absorbed all 3 dragons, and Prince Lei, one of the 5 strongest men in the Imperial clan, begged and threatened and died with my sword through his neck, for the crime of helping kill my father in a life he'd never remember. I walked out with his head and threw it at the feet of his elder in front of tens of thousands of purple dragon soldiers who did not dare move. I told them to tell that old bastard Chen Guang to remember exactly how he'd climbed onto his throne, because one day I'd come take his head off it. Then I left. Thrones are not birthrights, and the whole kingdom was about to learn it. That night, the death knell rang over the capital, 2 short and 3 long, and the Imperial clan's grand elders gathered around Prince Shenqi's severed head. Their 5 heaven rankers had just become 4. Patriarch Ran Jing 3rd on the ranking, Ran Long 13th, Ran Qing 19th, Chen Guangsheng 28th, and 1 empty chair where Prince Lei used to sit. 3 of them stood to ride out and hunt me down together. Chen Shi stopped them. She had news from the north, delivered with a calm that iced the whole hall. Marquis Wang Jian had fought a mysterious expert from the Qingkong kingdom, been gravely wounded, and fled dying into the desolate beast abyss. One of the most lethal places in the entire region, thick with poison mist and Ningying-level beasts, a place that kills healthy men, let alone bleeding ones. His 300,000 cavalry were leaderless and scattering. As far as the world was concerned, my father was dead. The Imperial clan celebrated, their greatest threat gone, and not by their hand, so no blood traced back to the throne. The emperor wept and could not, for the life of him, feel glad. And old patriarch Ran Jing looked at Chen Shi with something behind his eyes that might have been knowledge, and something else that was very close to fear, and said nothing at all. I didn't hear any of it. I was on a road, riding harder, with a hole opening in my chest that no one had told me the name of yet. I'd come back to save one man from one specific ending, and the man had found a different way to die while my back was turned. I stopped just long enough to reforge Prince Lei's Tai Thunder Bottle with divine blood, and it woke up meaner than the gourd. 9 lightning dragons, up to 36 at full power. I hit the 5th level of the Divine Meridian Realm on the road. Then, because it was on my way, I took my captured Fox Grand Elder to the Yindao Demon Hunting Group's headquarters to void the frame, and to hand their leader a gift. Gujing met me at the gate, 10th on the heaven ranking, a fire and saber grandmaster with the poise of a man who'd never lost. Long recognized Qing Hu Wei on sight and went pale, because 2 of the Fox clan's 9 grand elders had just died to me, and he was standing next to the survivor. I let the Fox confess in public that his own clan had murdered Shui Guo, and I handed over Qing Hu Long's head besides. Gujing thanked me, pledged friendship, and quietly coveted my furnace. For one moment, the frame was dead and my house was clean. Then the north caught up to us. His son slipped him the intelligence. Marquis Wang Jian, down, fled into the abyss. And in the same hour, 3 Imperial heaven rankers walked into his hall. Ran Jing, the 3rd ranked, Ran Long, Ran Qing, with Hao Huayan, 8th ranked, my dead prince's grieving father, at their side. Gujing did the math a coward does. My father was dead, so I was no longer worth backing. So he flipped and stood with the winners. Long let Hao Huayan cage my tent in a 5 elements trapping formation, turned cold, and branded me the villain. That's where I learned it. Not gently. Not from a friend. From an enemy's gloating mouth, thrown at me to break me before the killing. Your Marquis Wang Jian is finished, poisoned into the desolate beast abyss, and a man doesn't come out of that place whole, let alone bleeding. It hit me like the lightning I'd been eating all week. In my last life, I stood in a cell and watched my father die a broken man because of me, and I was too weak to do a single thing. This life, I came back a god. I got strong. I killed everything in my path. I was so sure I'd already changed his ending. And here was the ending, waiting for me anyway, wearing a different face. I didn't believe it. I refused to believe it. Longed fled inside. Fled meant alive. Alive meant somewhere in a corner of that abyss, waiting for me to come dig him out. But first, I had to get out of a room with 5 of the strongest men in the kingdom in it. 5 on 1. Ran Jing at 3, Ran Long at 13, Ran Qing at 19, Hao Huayan at 8, Gujing at 10. Every one with a magic treasure weapon. I couldn't win it, so I didn't try. I furnace-shielded Hao Huayan's opening sword, fired 6 purple thunderbolts at once, 5 to scatter the ring, 1 to blow the corner of the trapping formation apart, and burst free on my wings before they finished flinching. I told them I'd remember tonight, that their heads would stay on their necks for now, and I'd come back to collect. Then I grabbed a horse and ran, and 5 of the kingdom's strongest gave chase, because letting a boy escape a 5-on-1 would make the whole province laugh at them, and men like that would rather die than be laughed at. Good, I could work with men who'd rather die. They ran me most of a day. My horse gave out, and I doped it back to its feet with a pill and gold needles. Then it gave out for good. I shot the last wolf eagle out of the sky and fled on foot into a fog-choked mountain valley that felt wrong. Dead silent, no insects, a faint spirit scent marking territory. My divine sense found the owner, a half-step, nascent soul black tiger, 5 meters of ice attribute muscle, curled by a cold pool it had melded with so completely that it could bend the whole valley's magnetic field like a formation. One creature so far above the 5 men chasing me that it wasn't even the same conversation. So I decided to borrow a tiger to kill 5 men. 1-on-1, I'd have backed myself against even Ran Jing. 5-on-1, I die. But a Ningying tier beast defending its home ground could eat all of them and ask for seconds, and its territory made it stronger than its rank by half. So I danced the pursuers straight into the fog and down to the cold pool, slowing just enough that they wouldn't lose me, close enough that when the killing started, nobody could think. Patriarch Ran Jing struck first, a 9-angle sword art that shattered the rocks at the water's edge and ravaged the tiger's territory. The beast woke up furious and picked its first thief, him, the one who'd struck. It came off the rocks like a black cloud. Its ice claw, a strike like a top-grade treasure in the hands of a half-step nascent soul monster, slammed Ran Jing's yellow rank 8 shield and froze him solid, man and shield together, an icicle that couldn't move. Long fought it with everything the 3rd strongest man in the kingdom had, cracked the ice, and lunged to escape. And in that one breath, the exact length of a life, my purple thunder stuttered his rhythm and pinned him in place. The tiger's 2nd claw shattered his shield. My thunder took the last layer of protective aura, and Patriarch Ran Jing, 3rd on the heaven ranking, died as a smear of char at the foot of a mountain. I did not feel one thread of grief. In my last life, he was one of the 9 who broke my father. Ran Long had blasted the tiger's head with a yellow rank 8 bronze mirror to try to save Jing, so the tiger held a grudge and turned to him next. His people tried to pull him clear. The beast was too fast, its pounce triggering the ice law in the very air. My thunder pinned his escape for one breath. The claw took his shield. My last bolt finished him. 13th on the ranking, gone. Ran Qing, watching 2 of his own die, screamed and reached to help. And Ran Long, dying, told him the only thing that mattered. For the family. Run. Live. And Ran Qing made the ugly, correct choice. He abandoned his kinsman and fled. But he'd struck the tiger with a flute blade earlier, so the tiger remembered him. And as I cut across his escape and thunder stalled his wings, the beast took him too. 4 of the 5 Imperial Heaven Rankers, dead in one valley. 3rd, 13th, 19th on the ranking, and Prince Lei before them. And I hadn't landed a single killing blow. The tiger did all the work. I just introduced everybody and pinned them for a breath at a time. Gu Jing and Hao Huayan had bolted the moment Ran Jing started freezing, cowards to the last, and now they were the only 2 left. I fled the tiger's range before it decided I was next. Even I couldn't take that thing, and went to finish the job the beast had started. I caught the last 2 on a hilltop, still shaking. I even offered Gu Jing a door. 3 of the men who'd killed my father last life were already dead in that valley. Only the weak Chen Guangsheng was left to the clan, and I told the Yindao leader he could walk away and I'd forget his betrayal. Long laughed and refused. A common man is innocent, he said, but possessing a treasure is a crime. He wanted the furnace, and everything else on me, split with Hao Huayan, blinded by greed, stubbornly refusing to see. Fine, I played the furnace against Gu Jing's saber and struck Hao Huayan's yellow rank magic sword at the 7-inch 9 times running, thunder-numbing his arm. Then the reforged Taiyi Thunder Bottle's 9 dragons shattered his yellow rank 7 shield, and the 8th ranked man in the kingdom died mid-plea, the father who'd come to avenge a son who'd tried to defile a woman on a volcano. Gu Jing groveled after that, and I told him he'd had his chance, and outfenced him in 20 moves. 10th on the heaven ranking, gone. 5 pursuers, all dead. 3 by the tiger, 2 by my hand. I crept back to the tiger's pool afterward, and looted the 3 it had killed, and among Ran Jing's treasures, I found the thing that mattered more than any weapon. A 5 elements formation flag set. In the hands of a man who doesn't understand formations, it's a cheap trap. In the hands of a reborn god who used to command divine arrays, it becomes a living formation that changes shape at will, a 200-meter trap, and at last, a way to hide my thunderheads. From that hour, when I cultivated, no storm gathered over my head to give me away. It was the single biggest upgrade I'd found, and it came off a dead man's corpse in a monster's front yard. By morning, the whole kingdom had heard that Wei Yue killed 5 of its strongest and vanished, and the factions that had drifted to the throne when my father died drifted right back. Because a senior brother who outscares Marquis Wang Jian is a bad man to have already betrayed. The imperial clan was down to 1 heaven ranker, a dynasty about to shed its 4 pillars and its skin. The emperor despaired. Chen Shi didn't. She told her father, flat, that she alone was worth 3 of those dead old ancestors. And then she gave him the truth she'd been hiding. She belonged to a mysterious sect. Her Donghuang discipleship was only the public face of it. And her senior brother, a man of a family nearly the equal of the 9 cauldrons, was the mysterious Qingchang expert who had struck down my father. She'd asked him for a favor, and crushing Marquis Wang Jian was, to a man like that, as easy as crushing an ant. I didn't know any of that yet either. I only knew, writing, one thing over and over, like a prayer to a sky I didn't trust. Father, hold on. I'm coming. Just hold on. The desolate beast abyss sits at the northern edge of the world, and by the time I reached the frontier, my father's invincible cavalry had gone to pieces without him. 300,000 down to under 200,000. Beaten again and again, holed up in a valley called Monkey Hair. I flew into the middle of an ambush and pulled one of my father's 12 generals, Deng Wei, out of a Qingchang encirclement, burned a few thousand enemy soldiers off him, and turned the battle in a breath. I showed him the young Marquis' jade token, gave him the Wei Yue cover, and got the story. My father had chased the Qingchang commander to the edge of the abyss when a mysterious expert ambushed him, and he'd fled inside, gravely wounded. His deputy, General Guo Wei, a Yuandan 8, had charged in after him. Near certain death. These were the men who died beside my father in my last life. Every one of them. Badly, and for nothing. Their loyalty to him ran so deep it made my throat tight. Not this time, I swore. Not one of you, this time. At the Monkey Hair camp, I walked into a coup in progress. An imperial supervisor named Chen Jing, a 9th-level Yuan Dan in a royal python robe, was moving to seize the leaderless army, with a turncoat, General Xu Long, at his side, on the logic that Marquis Wang Jian was dead and 200,000 men needed a new master. The loyal generals, Xu Guang, Song Hao, Song Ping, Deng Wei, refused. The army obeys only the young Marquis. Chen Jing smiled and told them the whole camp was already poisoned. Colorless, bone-softening incense. No antidote. And one by one they found they couldn't move a thread of true qi. Longed forgotten to check whether it worked on me. God. Race blood laughs at poison. I'd been playing possum the whole time, letting every actor take the stage. Now I stepped in front of the crippled generals, and when Chen Jing came for my hands with his sword, my purple thunder one-shot him, a 9th-level Yuan Dan, through his shield and left him ash. The traitor Xu Long dropped his blade and begged. I told him he wasn't worth it and blasted him too, because a man who'll betray his lord for a title and murder his brothers to keep it isn't Azure Dragon anymore. Long's just meat with a rank. I freed the generals, detoxed them, and they knelt. But I'd learned something worse than a coup. Chen Jing had been the leak all along, feeding the Qingtang army my father's marching routes, engineering the deaths of 5 of the 12 generals and over 100,000 men from the inside. A borrowed knife again. They needed to know I was truly the Marquis' man, so I proved it with 2 secrets only the young Marquis could know. The childhood story behind the scar on General Xu Guang's shoulder, the drunken bet that got General Song Hao to propose to his wife. Then I showed them the looted Heaven Ranker treasures and named my kills Prince Lei and all 5 of the pursuers, and they went from awe to a kind of terror, and then they knelt again and begged me to go into the abyss and save their lord. I didn't just say yes, I armed them. I put a full set into every general's hands, attack treasure, defense treasure, flight treasure, enough to lift each of them to earth-ranking power, and I called it a loan from the young Marquis so their pride would let them take it. I handed out chi pills by the bottle, because I wasn't planning to leave these men to die again, and a war was coming while I was underground. The war had a name, and he was already marching. The Qingchang commander was Long Song, second on his kingdom's heaven ranking, the one man my father could never quite catch, and he was rolling toward Monkey Hair Valley with an army 5 times ours. Worse, in the rain, sword cultivating, he'd just broken into the half-step nascent soul realm, and now believed even my father would flee from him. I needed him alive. Long was the only living soul who knew exactly where my father had gone into the abyss. So I told the generals we wouldn't cower in the valley. We'd punch out the front and take the commander who'd come to bury us. They looked at me like I was mad. Then they marched. The 2 armies faced off in a canyon, and Long Song's prized nephew Long Ming rode out to challenge us, spitting the filthiest possible insults about our generals' mothers and fathers. I rode out myself. Qing, are there no men left in the Azure Dragon army? Long Ming sneered. That they send a soldier who isn't even Yuan Dan. I don't need a general to kill garbage like you, I said. A soldier's enough. Long came off his horse like an eagle on a rabbit. I purple thundered him through his shield before a single blow landed. 2 bolts, one to crack the shield, one to char what was inside it. Then I turned to the whole Qingtsang army and gave them Long Ming's own insult back, word for word, about their fathers and their mothers. And my father's beaten, dejected soldiers came roaring back to life while the enemy went silent. Long Song charged in a fury. His aura alone dropped both our warhorses to their knees. His yellow rank 6 frost magic sword crushed my purple thunder in the first clash, genuinely out-tiered everything I'd faced, a blade that froze the world for 2 meters around it. So I stopped trying to outpower him. I set my furnace as a shield to test him, let him cleave at it, and while he was certain he was grinding down a profound rank toy, I dropped the 5 elements formation and folded him into an illusion realm. A false world of snow and frost, where there was nothing to attack and nowhere to go. Long was too experienced to thrash. Long shut his eyes, sealed his senses, raised his yellow rank 8 shield, and waited for a low realm boy to run dry holding the formation. A sound plan against an ordinary formation. But mine wasn't a dead array sealed in a treasure. It was a living formation, shifting with the ground under a god's hand, and it drank his frost sword's energy and turned it into more snow. And while he defended blind against a domain he couldn't break, I charged the Tai Thunder Bottle all the way to its ceiling. 36 lightning dragons. The first wave of 9 hammered his yellow rank 8 shield. His frost sword bought him breaths and no more. Ocean waves of cold slowing the thunder just enough to survive. Then another dragon, and another. His shield shattered under the flood, and the second on the Qingsong heaven ranking went down, alive, needle saved. From the 2 armies watching, all anyone saw was an energy field swallow both fighters and then dissolve. 1 man standing, 1 man fallen. The man my father never beat, beaten by a nobody who wasn't even Yuan Dan. The Azure Dragon army fell on a leaderless enemy and annihilated 70 or 80,000 of them, seized their supplies, and won the biggest victory since my father fell. That night, I needled Long Song until 1 cup of tea turned the half-step nascent soul commander into a begging wreck, and I got the truth that changed everything. My father hadn't lost a fight. A masked assassin, a Yuan Dan 9 poison master, a hireling, carrying a Ningying grade poison pill that could kill even a Ningying expert, had joined Long Song, poisoned my father through his own shield, and driven him wounded into the abyss. And the assassin had followed him in. Because assassins get paid for a head, not a rumor. Which meant he needed to see the body. Which meant that until that assassin walked back out, my father was very possibly still alive, still running. I finally understood the shape of it. This was the shadow organization Chen Shi could reach. This was how the emperor killed a war god without dirtying an imperial hand. And I understood one more thing. Cold and clean. My father's cultivation had always been strange, too pure and too strong for a low kingdom, something my mother must have quietly passed to him, and it had kept him alive through poison that should have ended him. Whatever my mother's clan was, it had reached down and saved my father's life without either of them ever knowing. Long Song led me to the exact cliff where my father had jumped, and I kept my word and gave him a painless death. The generals prepared me a horse. I'll bring your Marquis back, I told them, and I rode west into the poison and the dark, chasing a father who was somewhere down there, hurt, hiding, and waiting for a son he didn't know had come back from the grave to find him. At the cliff, I found my father's aura, powerful and pure, and the assassin's yin poison trail beside it, and the residue of a Ningying grade poison pill, the thing that had eaten through a war god's shield. I reforged Long Song's top-grade wings and dove into the abyss. 3,000 meters down, through a layer of thundercloud, the world opened into a hidden pocket realm. Glowing plants, a lake full of starfish, an active volcano raining fiery miasma over a paradise of monsters. Beautiful, the way a bear trap is beautiful. I tried to sense my father with the Tai Shu Thunder Sutra and nearly died for it. The thunderheads changed the whole valley's field and turned a dozen Ningying beasts' heads toward me at once. I stopped fast. Then a forest of black-leafed trees, whose thorn vines moved like Yuan Dan strong whips, tried to eat me, and I found Azure Dragon armor and gnawed bones tangled in their branches. Guo Wei's men, so I switched to the crude, safe method. I flew low and shouted over and over that I was Wei Yu, sent to find Marquis Wang Jian, and if any Azure Dragon lived to answer. Over a white ape territory, an Azure Dragon flare finally answered. I found General Guo Wei in a cave, organ rot from the poison, half a mouthful of blood from dead. I healed him back from the edge, little divine doctor, one more time, and I felt the fish take the second hook, because the flare that saved Guo Wei was exactly the kind of thing that would draw the masked assassin still hunting my father. Long came, seeped venom into the cave, which did nothing to my blood, then crept in and walked straight into my formation. My Tai dragons cracked his yellow rank 8 shield and dropped him, and I needled him to keep him for questioning. But the moment he understood he was caught, he burned his own face off and swallowed his own poison, dead before I could get a word. Because an assassin's public identity is worth more to him than his life. Long cut my last clean thread to my father with his own teeth. I took his last Ningying grade poison pill off the corpse, a trump card for a day I could already feel coming, and I did the math. From Guo Wei's flare to the assassin's arrival was under half an hour, which meant my father, still alive, was somewhere inside that same half hour's reach. I told Guo Wei the whole ugly truth about the throne, armed him with the assassin's treasures, healed his poison over 2 days of trips, and finally flew him out of the abyss, through a lightning storm and a dark maze layer that explained why almost no one leaves that place, and told him to go hold the 200,000 men waiting above. Then I dove back in, alone, and searched for days, shouting into the poison, refusing to believe an empty answer was a dead one. And on one of those days, 10 miles off, the sky caught fire. A Ningying beast's cry silenced the whole valley, and the blood-red flame lit the horizon. A Ningying beast, fighting something. I told myself it might be a clue, and I flew toward it, desperate, straight into the territory of a monster I had no business going near. It was the best decision I ever made. The fire was a lava lake. In the middle of it, on an island of fire jade, grew a flame phoenix tree ringed in blood-red Wutong karma fire, guarded by a bird demon with a phoenix head and an eagle's body. Ningying Tier, home ground strong, the kind of thing that burns you to ash for existing near it. A Ningying 9 expert in a sword robe was out on the horizon, luring the bird away from its nest. And on the edge of the island, hidden under a disguise cloth, was a pair of eyes. I would know those eyes anywhere. I'd watch them go dull in a prison cell in a life I couldn't save. I'd seen them my whole childhood, looking at a useless son like he was still worth something. They were my father's eyes. Long was alive. Long was alive, and he was crouched on a killing island, coerced by the Ningying expert to steal Wutong fire liquid from the tree, a job whose karmic fire backlash kills anything below Ningying the moment it touches the liquid. The sword-robed man had cured my father's poison and put a leash on him, and the price of that leash was to walk my father into a fire that would burn his mind to nothing the instant he succeeded. So when the bird demon flew off after the swordsman, and my father crept to the tree and raised the collecting bottle, I flew down and took it out of his hand before he could touch death with it. Long didn't know me. To him, I was a stranger who wasn't even Yuan Dan, shouting his name, telling him I was Wei Ye, the senior brother of his son Wang Xuan, sent into the abyss to find him. When I said his son had a hidden sect and a master he'd never known, his face, his exhausted, poisoned, ready-to-die face, lit up like a boy's. Which father doesn't want his son to become a dragon? I activated the bottle and took the Wutong karma fire backlash into my own body instead of his. It didn't burn like fire. It was cool, gentle, and it went straight for the mind, the kind of flame that erases you without pain. My yellow rank 8 shield failed in seconds. My divine blood couldn't fully suppress it, so I sealed it, poured the karmic fire out of my own mind and into the profound rank fire array of my furnace, the way you'd bail a sinking boat, and I lived where my father would have died. Long tried to snatch the bottle back, begging me not to die in his place. This man he'd known for 10 minutes, ready to walk into the fire himself rather than let a stranger burn for him. That's my father. That's the man I came back from godhood to save. I told him I had a way. I collected the liquid. And while I was at it, because I am, at heart, a thief with a plan, I skimmed 5 extra drops into my own furnace, and I told him you and I both keep quiet. I saw the ghost of a smile on a face I'd last seen weeping in a cell. I saved my father from a fire in the belly of the world, and he still didn't know I was his son. And somehow, that was fine. Long was breathing. Everything else was just paperwork. The problem was the man on the leash's other end, coming back to collect. The swordsman was a Ningying 9 at great perfection, himself gravely wounded by the bird demon he kept baiting, and he was greedy the way only a nearly godlike man can be. 5 drops wasn't enough. Long wanted more, and more after that, and it was obvious he'd squeeze us both dry and then silence us. Qing don't leave witnesses who know you robbed a phoenix tree. Long aura blasted my father just to watch him spit blood, to prove he could. I stepped in and begged for my father's life, murder in my heart, and I volunteered to make the runs myself if he'd only let my father leave the abyss first. My father knew exactly what I was doing. Long knew I was trading my life for his, and his eyes went red and he tried to refuse. I cut him off. Go, your son is waiting. If I die, it's only because I wasn't strong enough. The swordsman, who despised loyalty because his own trusted brother had betrayed him once, sneered at the whole tender scene and let my father crawl away. Long'd already marked him with a divine sense tag and figured he'd chase him down and silence him later anyway. Long figured wrong about a lot of things. I played the grateful, terrified ant, and I fleeced him blind. I complained my reserves were too thin, and he handed me 5 Ningying grade restoration pills. I showed him my flight treasure was too slow, and he handed me a profound rank 4 set of wings, a gift he fully intended to peel off my corpse. All of it, weapons I'd used to kill him, handed over with a warm smile hiding a warm knife. While he lured the bird demon off a 3rd time, straining his own broken body to buy me time, I didn't use his little collecting bottle. I dropped my whole furnace into the pool of Wutong fire liquid and let its profound rank array drink like a whale. In a few dozen breaths, I siphoned over 5,000 drops and dropped the pool by half. A treasure the tree had spent decades condensing, gone into my rusty pot while its guardian chased a decoy. I filled the swordsman's bottle with a polite 20 drops and slipped away. Then I set the table. At our meeting spot, I laid down the 5 elements formation, because a Ningying expert has only the barest beginner's grasp of formation Dao, and I used to command divine arrays. And into my furnace's fire array, I fused the assassin's Ningying grade poison pill and the Wutong karma fire together. Poison that kills Ningying men, riding a fire that burns the mind directly, waiting in a soup pot. The swordsman came back wounded, greedy, and gloating over his haul, and walked into the trap I'd built out of everything he'd handed me. Long came to grant me death, of course. A common man with a treasure is a crime, and he wanted the furnace and his own wings back off my body. I burst backward on the profound rank wings and dropped the 5 elements illusion around us, and his palm strike hit empty white mist where I'd been. Long scoffed. A dead formation, sealed in a treasure, easily broken by force. Long drove his profound rank 6 sword into the ground and tore the earth open, a strike that should have shattered any fixed array. It didn't break, because it wasn't fixed. It was a living formation, shifting under a god's hand, faster than his sword could find its heart, and his own fire strike only fed the illusion. Long struck again, aggravating his wounds, and again it held. And I watched the certainty drain out of a man who'd ruled 100 years of the continent as he realized an ant had built something he couldn't understand. Long tried to wait me out, stand still, defend, let my low realm run dry holding the formation. So I opened my furnace, poured out the Wutong Karma fire fused with the Ningying poison, and let it seep through his profound rank 9 shield. Long had 5 Ningying restoration pills in his own gift, keeping me fueled for days. Long had a poison eating into his nascent soul, and a wound no antidote could touch. Long swallowed an antidote, and it only made the injury worse. Long understood then that he was going to die in this abyss to an ant. And a man like that doesn't die quietly. Long burns his own life essence and nascent soul to buy one apocalyptic strike, the same desperate art that had let him survive the bird demon 3 times. His skin went blood red, his wounds forced flat by the burning, and his sword erupted with a light that could crack the void and shattered my formation to pieces. I was already gone. I abandoned the array and ran the instant he committed, because a dying man's borrowed strength fades with every breath, and all I had to do was outlast it. Long chased me on his profound rank 8 wings, faster than mine, closing to 100 meters. So I did the only thing left. I turned into his killing stroke, took the 9th sword on my furnace shield, and rode the physical impact of his own blow to launch myself out at double speed. My divine body ate the shock, my shield ate the sword chi, and every wave of furnace rockets I fired behind me curved to his blind spots and forced him to spend the strength he was hemorrhaging. One effort, then decline. His power fell to a half, then a third, and then heaven itself put a period on the sentence. 10 miles off, the bird demon rose from its tree with a cry. It had come home to find half its Wutong fire liquid gone hunting for the thief, and it sensed the karmic fire burning on the swordsman's shield, and knew him for the intruder who'd mocked it 3 times. I ran straight into the edge of its territory and let the swordsman's aura enrage it, and the Ningying beast opened its beak. Long didn't dodge, Long grinned, and let it burn him to ash, so he'd die fast and take me with him. A peerless Ningying 9 expert, a man whose stomp shook the continent, gone in one breath of phoenix fire. Then the bird turned on me, same fire scent, same species of thief, and I hid the way an ant hides from a boot. I reactivated the formation to sever its lock, dove into the sword cave the swordsman had torn in the earth, buried myself 10 meters down, and pulled the disguise cloth over my body while it torched 100 meters of forest to a sea of fire looking for me. Its Wutong Karma fire reached me even underground and burned my mind bloody. I didn't dare use divine power to fight it, or it would have seen me, but I held, and it gave up, and it flew home. A dozen breaths later, I crawled out of the mud, alive, sealed the karmic fire into my furnace, and dragged myself off to heal. That was the closest I came to dying in 2 lives, not the 5 heaven rankers, this. And when I looted the swordsman's rings, I understood exactly how close. His name was Dong Liang, one of the 9 grand elders of the Donghuang sect, the sect that rules all 5 regions of the entire continent, the royal family of the whole sky. I'd killed a Donghuang grand elder, which meant the sky itself would come asking who did it. So I did the careful thing. I refined every one of his treasures with Wutong Karma fire to scrub his marks off them, threw his identity token into the bird demon's lava lake, and erased every trace my father and I had left in that valley, so that when the Donghuang came, they'd find only a phoenix beast that killed their grand elder for stealing its fire, which was, conveniently, the exact truth. I kept the arsenal, a profound rank 9 shield, an 8-grade set of wings, a 7-grade thunder orb, a 2-grade formation flag set, 5,000 drops of karmic fire, Ningying pills, a fortune in spirit stones, and I promised myself I would never, ever use the famous pieces where anyone who knew Dong Liang could see them. Then I went to find my father, wearing a smile I hadn't worn in 2 lives. My father hadn't left. Of course he hadn't. Long found a cave outside the bird demon's range and stayed, because a stranger had risked his life for him, and he was going to bring that stranger's body home if it came to that. When I walked up alive, he almost wept. I told him the swordsman was dead, killed by the bird demon, true enough, and I swore him to absolute silence. The death of a Donghuang Grand Elder is the kind of secret that gets whole clans exterminated. I cleaned the divine sense tag off him, cured the last of his poison, and finally set him fully on his feet. And on the walk out of that abyss, telling him everything that had happened to his city and his son, I watched my father become a person I'd never known. I'd spent my last life thinking of him as a good, loyal, slightly foolish man who trusted too much. Long was loyal. When I asked if he'd repaid the debt he owed the emperor who saved his life, he thought about it honestly and said yes, all of it, every campaign and every mile of conquered map. Long never wanted a throne. Long didn't even like the kingdom. But then his voice dropped and his eyes went to knives, and he said the one thing that told me the man was never soft at all. Long shouldn't have touched my son. That's my line. Long still didn't know his son was the ant walking beside him who'd just killed a god, and I let him not know. Wei Yue could stand in the light and take the sky's revenge on his own head, while the young Marquis stayed somewhere safe. But I heard my father say my name like it was the only thing in the world he wouldn't forgive a wound to, and something I'd carried since a prison cell finally set down. I thought about my mother then. Alive, in the Sha-Lei god clan, humiliated in a god family I couldn't yet reach. And I made her the same promise I'd already kept for my father. Wait for me. I'll bring you home to him. What I couldn't do in one life, I'll turn around in this one. We flew out into the sun, and my father tipped his face to it like a man walking out of the gates of hell. His army met him and came roaring back to life, 3 armies chanting his name, and he swore blood for the dead and a reckoning for the throne. And whether he wanted it or not, the invisible yellow robe was already on his shoulders. Qing can't take a crown off once the whole world has decided you're wearing it. The throne wasn't finished, though. That night, I felt my tent poisoned, the same poison as my father's, and I baited 5 snake-masked assassins inside. Half-step nascent soul killers the Empire's shadow family had sent for Wei Yue's head. My formation caught them, my Wutong Karma Fire cracked all 5 shields at once, and every one of them burned their own face off and swallowed poison rather than be taken alive. My father stood there stunned. The whole great Chen kingdom couldn't afford to hire even one such killer, which told us both that a hidden power far above this little kingdom was now funding the throne's grudge. We destroyed the bodies and told no one. Some enemies you don't name to men who can't fight them. The Azure Dragon army marched home in triumph, and the whole kingdom bent toward my father like grass in the wind. The imperial clan quietly smuggled its promising children out to other countries to preserve the bloodline, because everyone could see the dynasty was over. Everyone but the girl in the palace. Chen Shi stood in the moonlight and told her despairing father that the loss of 4 old ancestors didn't mean the end. She alone was worth 3 of them. Her Shadow Sect senior brother, the one who'd poisoned my father, came to take her away on their master's orders, and admitted his family's own assassins had died to me and he could do no more. She dismissed him, and then a new one walked out of the dark. Crown Prince Hao Ziqin of the 9 Cauldrons Imperial Clan, a Yuandan 9 prodigy with the whole first royal family of the region and the Donghuang sect itself standing behind him, come to shield the throne and court the princess. She told him she still wanted Wei Yue dead for the 4 old ancestors he'd taken, and warned him the man might be Ning Ying. Long smiled and said he had a way. Because 3 days ago, Green Fox Kun, the Fox clan chief whose 2 grand elders and favorite son and 5 elders I had personally killed, broke through to the Ningying realm and would soon come out of seclusion to hunt the man who slaughtered his family. So here's where the life I got back had brought me. I came back to save one person, one specific man, from one specific cell, so he wouldn't die broken and alone. And I did it. My father is alive, and the emperor who tried to bury him is going to lose his whole sky. But I killed a grand elder of the sect that rules the continent, and they will come asking. A Ningying realm demon king is waking up with my name carved into his grief. The premier royal family of the region and the Donghuang sect are lining up behind a throne that wants my house extinct. And my mother is still out there, in a god clan I can't touch yet, waiting for a son to grow strong enough to walk in and take her home. I saved one man. Somewhere in the doing, I ended up owing the entire sky. Good. I've got 2 lives of debts to collect. And this time, I'm the one holding the furnace.